Mike, turn your games down.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Top 10. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Top 10 episode of Games My Mom Found. I am your host, Michael Hughes. Who is joining me tonight?
You know, I probably should have talked about the order before we started. I am Mike Albertin going second, just remembering things I should have said beforehand.
Man, we're knocking this out of the park right now.
I'll go third and just cut anyone else off. I'm Star. Nice to be back.
I guess I'll go last. I'm Lucas, back again, ready to talk about some spooky games.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get super spoopy with our Spooktober Top 10 Patreon poll, all this shit.
Yes, it was a Patreon poll. I completely... Man, there's too much going on in my head. I completely forgot until this moment. It all like, oh yeah, it is a Patreon poll.
This is your show.
Going on in my life. I know.
Mike,
but I'm balancing
brain all the time.
I'm balancing. Oh god, my brain is like games my mom found, and then my job. Games my mom found, my wife, my job. All three are just mixing together.
It's like 70, 20, 10. I'll let you piece together which percentages are which.
Could I ask just outright, maybe a quick overview of like how you guys feel about spooky games out of curiosity?
Mike and I are pretty notoriously anti-spooky. Mm-hmm. Like, Spooktober is the only time that these things get funneled in, and it wasn't even his idea starting out.
I used to be a big scaredy cat, and then there was a shift about whatever I was, maybe 15 or 16, and I love horror games. If there's a new one out, I usually pick it up.
Okay, I'd say I like them. I don't seek them out often either, but I also don't. There's rarely a spooky game I play that really like makes me feel spooked. Like, for example, just to bring up Dead Space, like I don't think Dead Space to me is very scary, but like I like it as a game, you know. So
those are my kind of spook games, the ones that like make you more powerful than the enemy, because then it doesn't feel quite so scary.
None of this walking sim nonsense, just going around with a flashlight hiding under beds. I gotcha.
Looking for pages stuck to trees.
And then stands just a big old dude in a suit following you. It's so scary.
I've never.
He doesn't have
Slenderman.
a face.
Never played it. Never will.
You're fine. You don't need to.
It's culturally relevant a little bit. Markiplier just played it again and like randomly brought it up, and I was just like, all the memories come flooding back to like 12 years ago when it was relevant and new.
I remember when it was relevant, but I didn't play it.
It had a movie.
Yeah, it had a game that was not good from what I heard, and then the movie also wasn't good. It's quite sad.
Yeah, I think there was a sequel. I think there was even a second one. Second Slender game. Anyway, that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about good games. Good horror games. We are counting down our top 10 horror-adjacent, spooky-themed games. So, not necessarily full-on pee your pants, turn the lights on at night, but as long as you can make a case for it, then it goes on your list.
And if you can't make a case for it, we will veto it, and you will be kicked.
You just get kicked from the call.
And we will boot you from the call. Edit you out. It'll never happen.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, I say to the editor. So
I once had someone tell me to edit themselves out of podcasts, and I went, okay, that's nice. That's a little too much work.
But real awkward if you can't make a case and have to edit yourself out of this episode. All right, you guys ready to get started?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Oh, let's go.
Number 10 is first, the one we're starting. Remember, you said you could count, so.
We did establish that I cannot count. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out which order to go to that I can remember. We will go Star. Give us your number 10.
Sure. My number 10 starts with a very modern day, still popular, Dead by Daylight.
Oh.
Maybe one of you two should have gone first, because I actually haven't listened to top 10, so I'm like, do I ramble? Do I give a quick overview? Because I would try 40
Oh, no, you're fine. Yeah.
I think I'll just give a quick reason, and then I think respond. I don't know. But for me, Dead by Daylight is a game I've been playing for years, off and on. I don't honestly think, especially in its modern day standing, it's a great game, but I think for what it is as an existence of before, came out 2 years before Fortnite Battle Royale, and even then a few years before this very growing trend of crossover games became a thing. It had this idea, and since then it's just run with it. It's not very common you can have experience of I'm Pyramid Head chasing Steve Harrington from the Stranger Things universe on a Resident Evil map. Like, I think just for that alone, and having these amalgamations of classic horror icons and video game horror icons, it had to be on this list. for other reasons, sadly, it just like that's a great, but I couldn't put it any higher. So
why? I haven't played it in years, but I remember like I liked it when I played it. Other than my friends would get angry.
it's kind of like Counter-Strike in a way, in terms of that you are playing the same thing again and again and again, and it's just getting better at it. So like for that, but it's also like, or I guess you even say maybe Halo, but I think there's more of like a numbness to it. There's not a very large competitive scene with it. There is one, but there's no like ranked playlist. So you're just playing this game that's kind of just fun, and you get better at chasing people or being chased. But it's always fun to see what they will add. Wesker, who's just the most recent killer who's added, was a crazy addition, and I love him to death. I was so
awesome.
excited when
That's
it was
cool.
rumored. Yeah, like it's so fun, and he has like his voice lines from Resident Evil 5, which is one of my favorite Resident Evil, and he's just so iconic of just like 7 minutes is all I have to spare. When I heard that, I was like, oh, they did it. They did the thing. So yeah, I wish other parts of that game, for how much I love it, were better, so I could put it up higher, but it had to be there somewhere. So I'm happy it's on my list.
No, I'm glad.
This is one of those 4v1 like Evolve kind of things,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Asymmetrical multiplayer, which I'm a big fan of. It's just not done super well or often, sadly.
Isn't
Do you
Resident
have
Evil getting its own version of that? Like
Resident Evil-
Reverse?
Resident
They were
Evil,
supposed
yes.
to?
I think it's in development hell currently. But there's some other big ones coming out. One that I just got at Best Buy today, not available yet for retail, but was the Dragon Ball asymmetrical multiplayer.
Weird.
What's coming up? Yep, it is the main antagonist of Dragon Ball, starting with like Cell, Frieza, and one other one, and they chase around normies on like these areas of the planet as they're trying to I think collect Dragon Balls to stop them. I don't know exactly, but I'm very excited. Because I love Asymmetrical Horde and I love Dead by Daylight. I'm really excited to see what people's response to it is when it comes out, because it seems bananas. And
Oh, and I have another question about Dead by Daylight while we're still on it. Is it only one killer has been taken away, right? Or are they taking away a couple? I know they took away the Demogorgon for some reason.
Demogorgon is licensing along with
Yeah.
the survivors. You can still play them if you own them. You just can't buy it now. They also took the map out permanently. There's
That's
rumors it'll come back. I mean, yeah, they did it 2 months before this current season. It was wild.
Dead by
But-
Daylight, the one that's getting a dating sim?
It has a dating sim, and
No.
it's actually really good. I will sit here on this rock
Isn't that-
and I will die. It's fucking hilarious. It's
Oh, that's
great
wild.
shots at the community, and it's really funny. It breaks the fourth wall, so it's very self-aware. I think it was an amazing game that a lot of fanboys were like, "Oh, why would you ruin my immersion?" And I'm like, "No, this is fucking hilarious. Come and laugh."
Okay.
I can't remember. The only one they might have taken is Freddy. I know he was gone for a while, but I can't remember if they brought him
He's
back.
still there.
Okay, yeah.
He's
I know
on
he's
Steam.
in the game. I just didn't know we could still buy him. But
You can buy them on Steam.
Capcom hasn't added Lady D as one of the killers. Yeah, they have no idea what they're doing.
yeah. So I'm excited to see where the future of it will go. I just hope, without getting too much into it, they can get the rest of their shit together with making that game better. So yeah.
So is it something that you actually find, I guess it wouldn't be whenever you're playing as the killer, but being a survivor, is it actually tense gameplay wise, being stalked through those maps, or is it more of a just kind of, like you said, a fun being able to see the greatest hits of oh, there's Wesker chasing me, or so-and-so Pyramid Head?
It very much was when you first play. I've had introduced several friends to the game because it's on Game Pass, which is always nice, and getting people to have that first-time experience. It's very startling. And there are still times I get jump scared because there are ways. So a killer has a radius that as they get closer, a heartbeat gets louder, basically. But certain killers can make the radius, and perks can make your radius smaller. But there's one killer, good old Mike Myers, who if he doesn't have any terror radius to start. So
Yeah,
he does
baby.
have breathing. So suddenly you'll just kind of hear, and you have to be listening for it. So if you're
That's pretty good.
And you just turn, because you're spinning the 3D camera, third-person camera, you turn around, and he's just at a corner staring at you because that's how he charges his power. And you're like, oh shit! And then you pop the generator and just start sprinting, trying to get away. So there are moments, but it's pretty rare, especially several hundred, maybe 1,000 hours in at this
Right.
point.
Damn.
All right. Good answer. If we're going to pull from the Family Feud families.
Dang.
All right, Lucas, give us your number 10.
Oh, my number 10. I really struggled with what to cut off for 10 and what I put in my honorable mentions. But I decided to go with The Forest, which is a kind of survival sim game. You start and your plane crashes on this island. You don't really know what's going on, but like most survival games, you get an axe fairly quickly. You're chopping down trees, trying to build up little fortresses and stuff like that, make shelter. there's a full day and night cycle. And then at night is when the locals or the natives on the island start to come out, and they are cannibals. But what's interesting is the game does a really good job of kind of progressing how intense things get depending on how many days you survive. So like your first 2 or 3 nights on the island, like you may see some of the locals come up to you, but if you don't engage with them, they won't really engage with you. Like they just kind of stare, make some noises and stuff like that. They might charge you, but they won't attack.
That would be so creepy though.
Oh, it's very like surprisingly unsettling. But then as more and more time goes on and you get further into the cycle, they start to become more aggressive, which makes sense. I mean, you are like basically deforesting their island to build up your beautiful cabin or whatever you're building. So like I get why they're attacking. And the new monsters start to show up the further you get. But what really gets me the horror wise is the cave system on the island. Whenever you're doing story progress, or even whenever it comes to finding better items in the game, like chainsaws or swords or aerosol cans that you can spray with your lighter for fire, all that stuff has to be found in the cave system on the island, which is where the locals stay during most of the day. And there's something about getting lost in those caves that is incredibly effective. It's very dark. The sound design is really good. And it's very easy to get lost in there in the best way possible, to where, you know, you'll be going, trying to find stuff. You may have finally found like a cache with some supplies that you need. Okay, awesome. I just want to get out of these caves back to my map or back to my base. And it's a struggle. And then there comes that moment where you like get up the rope and you're out of the cave and you're like, thank God I'm back on land. But it's also pitch black outside and they're all pissed. Like they all know I'm here. It's just a really good meshing of survival mechanics, which I really like. I love base building and stuff like that. But then also really doubling down on the horror aspect of, no, like you should be wary of the night. Like they will come for you, and it's no joke whenever they start to.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying. I always
They are
mix this one
making a
up.
sequel.
I mixed this one up with Green Hell. Green Hell is the one where you like hear voices and stuff, right?
I've not played.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh,
Yeah,
Green
it's-
Hell. Yes,
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
seen
yeah.
it.
Yeah, not Green Hill.
Yeah, I heard Green Hell. I was like, I don't know that one. No, I've seen Green Hell. Yeah, I think they're kind of similar.
Yeah.
Is there a way to beat it? This game?
There is, yes. There is. You're looking for your son. That's like your main plot, kind of pushing forward. So that
Okay.
is a thread that can be completed. But at the same time, if you want to ignore all that stuff and just see how many days you can survive on the island, that's also an option. So you really don't have to engage with that stuff if you don't want to.
Is it a roguelite then? Or do you not gain anything after you lose?
After you die, you have the ability to go back to your body and get your stuff back. And then similarly, kind of if you die a second time, then some of the stuff disappears. It depends. A lot of stuff that you unlock is permanent upgrades. So like you never lose your axe or anything like that.
Okay.
But if you were hauling like a big load of sticks or medicine or rocks, like all of that stuff, you can lose it if you're unable to get back to your body.
You said there's a sequel coming out. So it's out of alpha then, because I remember this game has been out for a while, and I experienced it a long time ago, and I didn't like it back then just because I think it was still pretty buggy and new. But I've been curious to revisit it.
I would recommend it. I put a decent amount of time in it. I'm very excited for the sequel. I hope that they kind of expand on a lot of what made the first one work so well. And like you said, whenever it first launched, it was definitely kind of not too buggy to where it was just like, it just didn't distract me too badly, but it certainly wasn't, you know, like you could tell that this was kind of a new idea that they were trying to do on PC, which is where I played.
I added it to my wish list.
So I hope they succeed with that sequel. I'm really looking forward to diving
Steam
back
Deck
into that
playable.
world. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, the two,
I'm on board.
I imagine playing that in bed. That's the only light.
That's what I would be doing if I played it. Or not.
The two thoughts it makes me have is, one, I want to mention that I'm pretty sure it does have a VR version, which I mean, I think it should get credit for that.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. I think it's just cool that when games have a pretty good standard, like, oh, let's make a VR like Resident Evil 4. I think it's really cool they did it with that. But the second thought I had, and this is pretty permanent to this whole conversation, is horror games are really interesting in the concept of like when I first played it, I didn't know that it gets harder and it gets scarier because I only played it maybe a day or two before I was like I put it down. But like if someone had told me that back then, I would maybe been like, oh really? That's more interesting than wanting to play it. But then like a gambit, so it's kind of hard with horror games because it's like if I tell you everything, it's less scary. But I want to entice you, so how do I do that? So I think it's kind of an interesting thing with this whole list that we'll be talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. Mike, what is your number 10?
Wow, you made a really good cup of coffee. The coffee is trying to talk to me. My number 10 is
clear as day.
Deadly Premonition. This wasn't originally going to be on the list, but I was trying. I couldn't figure out a number 10 really. And I didn't want to put a game that I just got done playing. Like I was thinking, okay, do I want to do Fear? I'm like, I just played Fear. I don't. And then I'm like, or Stalker, Shadow of Chernobyl. I'm like, I don't want to talk about that. So I ended up going with Deadly Premonition, which is a good game. I mean, that is I can't remember if we butchered it or not on our episode when we covered it.
I mean, it's pretty jank to begin with, so we probably kind of poo-pooed on the gameplay, but the story is pretty good.
Well, and I played a terrible PC version. I remember that, where every time I got in the car, I couldn't hear what they were saying. I was like, the car just wouldn't stop making a terrible noise.
Oh my god, I remember that.
So, but no, I mean, it's a really good game. I mean, I loved it when I played it on 360. I'll never forget, like, $20 release. I'm like, sure, I'll pick up this random game for $20. And
yeah,
I had a great time. Like, the story still has stuck with me. I mean, it's a fucked up story, but there's so much to that game. And I mean, I know some people might not consider it a horror game, but when you fight those damn enemies and they crab walk towards you, that's a horror game.
Yeah.
This is a game I've heard about, but I've never actually seen anything.
You should play it. I mean, you should Google it. Don't look up the story, but like, it's a very strange. Like, part of the game has moments where you drive a car and you go around a large world map with no fast travel. I don't think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
There's a time system that goes on that stores are only open during certain times on certain days. There's a day system. I mean, you have time to do your missions and do what you're supposed to do, but other stuff happens throughout the game that you can, and there's lots of side content. There's collectible cards. There's tons of mini games. And then when you go into violent areas, like the world will change and all of a sudden it's like a third person shooter and he shoots and you can get other guns. Like, there's a lot to it. It's janky, but there's a lot to it.
I was watching a gameplay, and I watched this man pick up what looked like a military award medal, and then a thing popped up, and it says Agent Horror, and then plus $30. And I'm so confused.
Yep. It checks out.
I love it.
It's your experience system, if I remember correctly.
I just like that it's apparently
for money.
Yeah.
I can't remember specifically with their currency or what.
Zach, what do you think? Zach thinks it's currency.
I had a lot of hard time thinking of games, so I looked at a lot of lists, and this one popped up quite a bit. It was never usually that high, but a lot of people, it was like a top 50. It was on there.
Just don't play PC.
Yeah, it's worth checking out, for sure.
It's on 360, PS3, and PC, but the PC version was fucking broken when I played it, and I think that's just the PC version in general.
It's on Switch now, too, the Deadly Premonition Origins, I think. I can't imagine it runs any better on there, but it might be worth checking out.
They all just do this thing where they just will show you their back and then bend backwards. And
go,
ooh.
Look what I can do.
I just kind of like it.
That's mostly what the enemies do. There's not a lot of creativity with the enemies. There's not really any boss. There's not much for bosses, but it's still has a very good story, and it's a very unique game.
I remember the last boss. That thing's a pain.
Okay, I vaguely remember it.
I like it.
It took a second.
Like wacky fun. That's how I describe it.
There is a lot, for as much like creepy horror stuff as there is in that, it's equally balanced with just wacky shenanigans too. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a good balance. It's worth playing.
All right.
It's also cheap.
True. For my number 10, we're going all the way back to 1990 with Hugo's House of Horrors. Anyone know this one?
The name sounds vague.
No.
Familiar.
This is a adventure game for the original, for PC way back in the day. So imagine a toaster with a screen on it.
It's a DOS game.
It is a DOS game. And you play as Hugo, who is investigating this titular House of Horrors looking for his girlfriend Penelope. But this is one of those adventure games that uses the parser commands. So you have to type in everything you want Hugo to do. So at the beginning, you're locked out of this house. So you pull Matt. No key there. Look, deck, and it'll kind of list all the things that are around. It's a very 1990 game. Because I think shortly after this, LucasArts started adding even Maniac Mansion did it before this, where they give you the commands at the bottom. But this one was probably my first quote-unquote horror game. I think that's why it stuck with me all these years later. So I had to put it on here, at least at number 10.
Did it scare you though?
That's why I'm wondering now. I'm looking at it, and it's so old. It's harder to be like, oh, it's really scary. But I'm sure at the time, I'm like, was it scary? I feel like it had to.
I can believe it could have scared Mike.
I can't imagine more than 1 or 2 games on my list would have been could say that scared me. I played very safe with this.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun imagery, at least in this video I'm looking at.
Oh yeah, it's great. And it was one of the early PC games, so all the sounds came out of the computer itself. Good stuff. Love it. Star, what is your number 9?
Combining 2 recent thoughts, a game that also takes place in a sort of big old house and is very unique. It is Sanity's Requiem, Eternal Darkness for the Nintendo GameCube. I spent probably like 10 or 15 hours this week playing some different horror games, maybe a little more than that, just of some ones that I definitely have heard a lot about and always wanted to try. And this was the one I probably spent the most time with. I'd heard about this game many times over the years for its unique mechanic of the sanity meter, that when you encounter monsters, if your sanity meter gets low enough, the game starts to act differently to mess with you, the player. It would do things like back in the day, relative to, when this came out, it would like turn your TV off, which would flash the screen as black. It didn't actually turn your TV off, but it would make you, the player, think, oh, why is my TV off? There's like a blue screen of death that would randomly pop up, and and even stuff in game where like, the character's head just falls off, and then you can go pick it up as an item. And when you pick it up, it pops up and it starts quoting the Shakespeare at you with Hamlet holding the skull. It's all this different stuff that's like really cool, and I'd heard so much about it, and so I finally got to play it. And I played it for probably like just almost, I want to say 6-7 hours.
You should keep playing it.
Yeah, you got a good chunk into it.
The problem is and it's probably because at the start of the game, it gives you a choice between 3 random runes that have no context. And I went, what the hell is this? So I paused, I looked it up, and I was like, oh, okay, 1, the enemies take more of your health away. The other, the enemies take more of your sanity away. And there's a third one, it's like, don't use this. I'm assuming it does both. It's like, don't do this till you played it again. And I was like, not thinking about it, and so I don't remember which one I did, but in
Blue is the bad one.
Yeah, so they also dictate what the skeletons enemies do, like the main enemies, and the blue ones, when you hit them, they kind of like vibrate and explode, and you can't get your sanity back.
Oh, interesting. In short, I never had my sanity low enough. So I forgot, it was just because I found it really easy, and I'm pretty sure I did the one that the enemies were tougher, but it never happened. And so I was really disappointed, and I even literally a few days later, I was trying to go in, oh yeah, what was that game? And I looked up, I was like, oh yeah, it's the game I played the other day that I totally forgot had these mechanics that I never got to experience. And so I was like, one, for the modern day, it doesn't really work anymore, because if you're playing on a computer and your screen turns down, you're going to go, what the fuck? Oh, it's a horror thing. And again, it's this theory I brought up earlier of, if you know what the gambit is, it takes it away. But
there are
doing it at the start. You're like, whoa, what's going on?
Still certain ones that will get you. I mean, yes, this volume one might not get you, the memory card one might not get you, but there are other ones that will still get you.
Exactly, and that's why it's still on my list, and I think it's really good. It just, I was disappointed with my experience. Again, limited, but I still think the idea is really cool and unique.
Question.
And really fun, worth experiencing.
Did you go in the bathroom at all?
I did.
Okay.
That one did give me a small jump scare.
That one,
I'm not the biggest fan of jump scares, but it did get me, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what we'll fucking do game. This is what's going to be like, all right, I can hear you. And then, but yeah, that was kind of fun for a second. But yeah, no, I think it's, regardless, I think also the only other problem is maybe pretty culturally appropriative, as I was going like, oh, okay, we're doing a lot. Oh, we're in a weird place with this. All right.
Yeah.
Nintendo GameCube, I get it, but I was just sitting there like, all right, we are really going through some stuff here that makes me uncomfortable. So
Silicon Knights isn't known for their diversity and doing well with that. But it's definitely one of those ones that once you know how to game the system, it's kind of a cakewalk.
Exactly, and that was sadly my experience, because I got it down like that. I was like, okay, murder him, stab him, blah blah. Even the walkthrough was like, run past these guys, because I was looking at parts, because there was only it was one part early on I got really there was the starting thing. The first thing you have to do is go to a clock and put in a time of 3:33, and that unlocks the first secret room that allows you to start the actual story. I set it to 3:30, and I thought I said enough, and nothing happened. I went, that's weird. I walked off. I started walking around the house, and there's very little space going. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? So I looked up the guide. It's like, go to the clock, put in 3:33. I went, oh, okay. I went to the clock, and before I moved it, it whispers 3:33. 3, and I'm like, all right, calm down, game. Sorry, damn, thank you.
Get on with it.
There's a lot more that comes up, but yeah, it's a really good game.
Yeah, I think I think it's definitely cool, and that's why it's totally on my list,
Yeah.
but I couldn't put it higher than 9. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Spoilers, we'll be talking about this game later on.
Ooh.
But for now, Lucas, what is your number 9?
My number 9 is Dying Light.
Oh,
The reason why is kind of similar to The Forest. The thing that I love about it from its horror aspect is, one, the zombies are actually menacing and scary, maybe for younger children, I suppose, or for anybody. You know, there's no judgment there. The designs aren't particularly scary, but there's something about that day-night cycle in the game mixed with the parkour and just progression in general of like encouraging you to go out into the night to get better loot or XP or whatever. And the game really ramps things up at nighttime in an effective way, especially coupled with the parkour of like, you know, you may be doing well, jumping between buildings, blah, blah, but as soon as you set something in motion, like the amount of enemies that just start sprinting to you, they're climbing up the buildings with you, like special, I don't know how else to describe them, like the kind of special enemies. They start to pop up, and it gets your adrenaline pumping, especially whenever you've just found something great and you're trying to get back to a safe zone. It's freaking dark. You can just hear all the screaming. You know they're all behind you, and there really is this feeling of like, if I mess this up, like I'm gonna put myself in a bad situation. And I love that. Like, there's something about the chase that they do really well, and you know, kind of mixing that in with the day-night cycle to kind of give different two sides of the same coin. Of okay, during the daytime, this is just your standard zombie, just knocking them out, killing them. This is easy stuff. But no, once nighttime hits, you're fighting for your life, and I love it. I think it's one of the best zombie games to come out in the past several years.
this came out in 2015. I have never played this yet. I have looked at it many times and went, but that's as far as this went.
Fun co-op game too. It's really good.
I could have put this on my list for the sole fact that you can drop kick zombies off of rooftops.
True.
It's a blast. Volatiles are the ones at night that'll sprint.
Volatile, yep.
I knew they had a special name.
I think not Dead Rising, to be Left 4 Dead just did it perfect. Just call them special infected. You got regular infected, you got special infected.
Yep.
Everything's just you call it that.
We're going to talk about that later, too.
Oh, I'm glad I almost wanted to put it on mine, but I did.
Spoilers.
Mike, what is your number 9?
My number 9 is Eternal Darkness again. Also,
No way.
so I mean, again, really good game. Freaked the hell out of me. I mean, it's one of those games that I played back on GameCube. A friend of mine, but I got nowhere. It wasn't until we covered in the show, I think last year, where I finally got around to, or maybe the year before, got around to playing it, and I really enjoyed it. Like, it's a very good game, and it's freaky as hell, and and the way the SNES Drunk says it, play it any way you can, because you're never going to play it legally ever again, so unless you own a copy.
It's one of the best games come out of 2002.
It really sucks that it doesn't exist in another way. It makes me upset.
I have to say, I've never played it, and it's on like it is my white whale of horror games. I've always wanted to check it out.
I can help you, depending on
get a GameCube.
So if you're okay, depending on how you want to play it, I can help you. But that's
yeah,
conversation
we might
off
talk
there.
about that later.
Okay.
Hey, Alex got a spirit in Smash, so never say never. They still know it exists.
Never gonna happen. They would already done it.
How expensive is a physical copy nowadays? I'm guessing it's probably pretty expensive.
Over 100, easy.
Yeah. Okay, so that's not the craziest number for GameCube games.
No, it's not. But it's stupid that you can't get a game that's this. You know, it's not like it's a licensing issue, like something like a game that's like a Marvel Nintendo. Yeah, I mean, they just don't care, and they hate Silicon Knights, and everyone hates Silicon Knights, and they don't even exist anymore, and they just won't release it. I mean, I'm sure they might not have the source code anymore or anything, but still. Yeah, $100 complete in box, best offer, free shipping.
I think it's just, again, I don't think this is the main reason, but I think it really is like, it was amazing for the time it came out and not revealing its hand too much. That's something I think about horror game advertising. I hated Dead Space advertising. I thought it was the stupidest thing to be like, oh, we're so gory and moms hate us. And I'm like,
that was 2.
It's 2?
Yeah, that's
Either
fair.
way, that makes a little more sense
I
as
think.
a sequel.
I
But
think
I think so.
I hated it. But I think with this game, I don't know what the advertising was like when it came out, if there was any. But I think holding your hand close, and being like, just play this game. It's a little spooky, and then being what it is, it makes it really unique for the time, and it'd be really hard.
I still think the
to do
game holds
today.
up in at least 2021 when I play. I still enjoyed it. I can't remember now, but I think it still holds up.
I mean, for me, as a first time playing that game this year, we go, it's fine. I like mechanically, it's not like buggy or awful, but it's like, it's just you walk around, you slap things or you throw things at them, and that's probably you could say a lot of games like that. Describe it like that. Yeah.
Oh, where are we at? My number 9.
Yeah, you're number 9.
My number 9 is Prey, the 2017 one that has nothing to do with the 2008 one.
That the studio just confirmed this week they did not want to call it Prey, but they were forced to.
They really did not want it.
That's that's one of my favorite recent gaming news facts.
It's just more arcane goodness. They really can't miss anymore. But you play as Morgan Yu on the Talos 1 space station and is infested with an alien race called the Typhon, which are basically like living symbiotes that are big, spooky, shadowy bitches. And especially starting out, they overwhelm you in just about every facet, and it's only as you unlock abilities, whether they be human or taking abilities from the Typhon themselves, that you can really start to bend the balance in your favor. And man, there are some fun abilities if you go the Typhon route, like being able to mimic into any object laying around in the game is a novelty that I don't think will ever wear off. It's so much fun.
It was one I could never get into, but I totally respect and think it's a great game, and I understand why it's on this list. I think it's really fun and spooky, especially early when you're don't have a lot of options. You start encountering them, and they just destroy you, and you're like, oh, I guess I'm not going into that room, but let me go anywhere else on this station
Exactly.
that I can access. And I think the way they designed powers and world exploration was amazing.
I know Bill Tucker loves it. I really want to play it one day.
I think as much praise as I gave Arcane, I think every one of their games I had to try a couple of times before I really stuck. So it might be worth revisiting, and I think they're all on Game Pass still. Now that
They also have that roguelite mode that they added.
Oh yeah, Moon Crash. I played it once and then I haven't touched it since. I should do that.
Well, I really like the original Prey.
I played it. I beat it.
That
I
game
played
is
some of it.
wild. I remember seeing videos of it back in the day. They're like,
It's okay.
It's such a.
It's got its defenders.
It's okay. I beat it once. I don't remember anything about it, but I just know I played it.
I remember you start in like some saloon and aliens invade, and then you end up on their ship.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Stellar. Good
Yeah,
stuff.
nothing else. It exists.
Star, hit us with your number 8.
A game that also has zombies, but they aren't scary. Dead Rising.
Yeah, they are scary. Who are you on?
I've talked about it a few times. I think maybe it kind of goes back to what I said Dead by Daylight. Is once you have spent over 1,000 hours doing Dead Rising, the zombie, nothing's scary. But I think, and that's why it's hard for me to really be like, how high should I put this on my list? Because I'm so desensitized, and I played it the first time so many years ago that I cannot imagine playing this game for the first time. I know mechanically it's probably not the best, but for me, as I was really sitting here and munching about it, thinking about like, do I want it on the list? How high do I put it? For me, it's the psychopaths. I think the psychopaths in that game, or to this day, are still spooky. Like Adam the Clown. I think I've talked about it a little in the podcast, but when this game first came out, it was back when HD was really becoming a thing. And if you didn't have HD for like the Xbox 360,
Oh my God.
a lot of games were, we've talked about before, are really hard to read. Dead Rising was one that as a kid, I loved this game, but I could not read the little phone calls you get to say, hey, there's a spooky clown at the place, go investigate. So I remember the first time that I do remember is walking in and a cutscene starts and I'm like, oh, what's going on? And then it's Adam the Clown and he's juggling chainsaws and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And he's still spooky. But again, he's spooky, but he's not scary to fight. I'm like, okay, let me just, destroy him in one of the 10 best ways I know how. But I think all the psychopaths in that game, from a story element, are really interesting and spooky. Like, you have a guy who's clearly going through PTSD, which is kind of interesting and weird because he's talking.
Oh, the Vietnam guy?
Yep.
Yeah,
you have a person who not mentally well off. I don't know. I don't want to try to project what they were trying to code them as, but they are like a character who's like, they're minus staffed and they're clearly obsessed with meat. And so they're like stringing up zombies and they're like, I'm trying to get good meat, but all I'm finding is bad meat. And you're like, what the? And there's just a family who's like obsessed psychopath hunters, and they're shooting zombies for sport, but people are bonus points. It's all these characters that are really like, it's fucked up, and you're like, ew, I don't like them in this and what's going on, and they're scary in that way. So really, in short, the humans were the real villains all along.
They're the true Walking Dead.
Yeah, and so I think for the rest of the game, like the zombies at night, yeah, they're kind of scary and they're red eyes, and but for me, that's the part that I was like, it's on the list for that at least, and I love that game, but I know I'm very biased, so 8 is where it sits for me.
I love this series.
I love 1.
Gonna come back to it.
Oh God, I hope it's 1. If it's any others, I'm gonna fight you respectfully.
Star, you've got good picks. Lucas, what's your number 8?
This is the newest game that I have on my list, Inscription. And I'm not going to spoil anything major, because I really do think if you haven't played it, it's something that you should experience knowing as little as possible. But to set it up, you awaken in a cabin. There is a creepy man sitting across from you, lights a candle, has a spooky mask, and he challenges you to a card game. So it is a card game. You're building up your deck and stuff like that, but it's not overly complicated. And as you go, the cards begin to speak to you, like they become the characters of the game, and it expands upon that later. But the reason I love it is because the atmosphere is really solid, especially in the first act. It's divided up into 3 acts. And that first kind of scene or scenario or act that most people know it for, because that's mainly what they use for advertising and whatnot, is just really solid on the atmosphere, as is the rest of the game. And then the other thing, again, without getting into too much spoilers, if you enjoyed, we were just talking about it, your GameCube game, Eternal Darkness. It does some interesting and clever things whenever it comes to messing with the player. And some of those are scary, and then some of them are not, but it's always interesting, and it never gives up on its horror kind of foundation, even whenever it tries to misdirect you with what's going on. There's definitely moments where you think, oh, it's becoming this now, and then the horror aspect kind of slowly starts to creep back in, and it does it very well. And it's not a super long game. I definitely recommend it to anybody who hasn't played it.
I have played it, and I would also highly recommend it. It's not on my list. I totally spaced on it, but I think it's a really great game. I only got to the second act, and I kind of put it down after that because it just couldn't hold me. But that first act is real fun and real strong. Of like the atmosphere and the characters are spooky and weird the whole time. I'm like, what's going on?
I definitely think the second act is the weakest part of the game.
I just want to know the third act because I know nothing about it.
I think it definitely redeems itself and again, that's a compliment to it being as short of an experience as it is, because again, that second act I think is the weakest part. Not that it's bad, but it doesn't overstay its welcome either. And then whenever you do get to that third act and there's this kind of transition again, it really comes back to that horror focus with an interesting perspective, and it continues to mess with you in interesting ways. It's really good.
Question. This man that challenged you to this card game, is this Seto Kaiba?
No.
I mean, I never found out the answer, so in my mind, it could be.
Gotta believe in the heart of the cards.
It's right. He's an expert at children's card games.
I think one critique, because you mentioned it in terms of the length, I have heard people who really struggle with the first part of this game, and it took them a very long time to get through it. And I think over time, it kind of gives you more ability to get through it. But I would say, I think if you're having a hard time, try to look up some sort of spoiler-free guide, because I think getting stuck at the first act of that game could be really frustrating if you're not great with the mechanics. And I can see how that would suck.
For sure, 100%. And like there are puzzles that you have to do and stuff like that. I personally didn't find the puzzles too obtuse or complicated, because the game does a good job of kind of pointing you in the direction of, hey, you should probably be checking out this thing right now, without necessarily giving you the answer to the riddle that you're trying to solve.
Yeah, I would.
So I feel like it strikes a nice balance for me personally, but I can see how some people could get tripped up and kind of stuck in that first area.
Totally.
Oh, cool. Mike, hit us with your numero ocho.
My number 8 is a game that I haven't played for a while, but scared the shit out of me. Alien Isolation.
Oh.
game I did not play for the show yet. The first time I played it, this is one of the few moments when I beat the game. I remember I jumped up in the air and went, "Fuck you!" And I was so happy. Haven't touched it since. Really, really good game. Super creepy. It actually makes you care about the Alien license for the first time in a while. So it's
Colonial Marines, anyone?
I like that game personally when I played
you
it.
do.
I think I liked it back then, but I would not remember calling it a good game.
I don't think it was a good game, but I beat it and I think I had fun.
Hot take. I'm gonna, at least with the limited amount of time I spent with Alien Isolation, I would say a similar thing. I do not get this game. I spent about 6 or 7 hours with it, and I was done. I was like, I'm not scared. I'm annoyed. These sneaking mechanics are pissing me off. I was playing in a dark room with headphones. Be like, ooh, let me get this atmosphere. And
The aliens aren't the worst part. The worst part is you hear, "What are you doing here?" Oh shit, it's an android. It's the worst
Those
part.
androids, man.
They just fucking murder you.
yeah, I think it was just something I was really struggling. I don't remember, because I think when I started up, I'd play once before. I think you just hit continue. Is there a difficulty setting at the start? Do you remember?
I think so.
Okay, because I would have probably, if I
Yes,
was
yes.
restarting it, I would turn it down to easy just because it's really annoying to be shot by people or robots and be like, well, I would have liked to escape, but I couldn't. And so, yeah, I'm happy to hear how much you like it. Really wanted to like it, and I was so excited to experience it, but I was just so frustrated that.
You also want to play on easy because the alien always knows where you are. The difficulty depends on how often it decides to go after you.
Interesting.
How
They don't tell
courteous
you
it
that,
is.
but yeah, and the way the mechanics are designed in the game, it always knows where you are. It just depends on if you get its interest enough or not.
Oh,
And on the
God,
higher
that's awful.
difficulties, the more interested it is in you.
That just makes me think of Mr. X in the Resident Evil 2 remake. I don't want to do that again.
I will say, I thought about putting Alien Isolation towards the bottom of my list, but similar to Star, like I wasn't as hot on it. I think it's really good. It has a strong opening, but length is one of the things that like it just goes on for too long, in my opinion, and kind of loses its steam in the middle.
It's a
If
long
they could
game.
have just shaved off like 4 or 5 hours or so, I think I would like it a lot more and be more willing to revisit it. But like, it's one of those games I've always thought about going back to because I enjoyed it whenever I started it and then kind of left with a sour taste in my mouth. And every time I think about going back, I'm like, there's a reason that you got those. It just kept going.
So, do you ever get a means to fight back, or are you always just avoiding enemies?
You fight, you can kill androids and you can kill regular guys. You cannot kill the alien ever. Well, their storyline beats, but that's it.
Yeah,
It's like the opposite of Dead Space, then. So, where Dead Space is constantly making you overpowered versus the enemies, this one's just, you can't do anything.
I saw a shotgun at one point through a window. I was like, God, I really want that because these humans are pissing me off, and I just want to get to the spooky.
You
alien
also
I can't kill yet.
The aliens are only in certain parts, and I'll never forget one of my favorite things was there was a guy that tried shooting at me, and it was an alien area, and I made noise, and that took care of the problem real fast.
That's
I do
awesome.
Like that.
I threw a grenade at him, like a noise grenade, and then he's like, "What the?" And then all of a sudden, it came down, started eating everybody, and I just ran for the exit. I'm like, "Ah!"
I like that a lot. I've heard so many good things about this game. There's no way that it's like not a good game, I think, on average. But I will end on one nitpick where I was really early on, and it's probably because I was already frustrated, and I'm sure there's another game on my list that has the same issue. But there's like, when you start out, you're going through this like space station, and it has like baggage areas. And there's this one part where it's like there's these 2 rows of like baggage that are going through, and there's like a little gate between them, like something that's probably above waist level. And I was looking at my map, and I'm like, how do I need to go forward. It's the only way forward. Okay, why? I'm like, I could just crawl over this, whatever. And it's like, no. Go back, move this, like, baggage moving machine, and then go through this little vent, over it, up. And I was like, this is the most convoluted shit. There's literally, I could step over this, but you're making me go through it. And I was already upset. But I was like, this is so stupid. I was going to look at my guide at that part. So I was like, how do I get through this? Anyway.
Sounds like the Pokemon trees that you have to use cut for. It's like, I can walk around this stupid thing.
There's not that much space taken up.
I think it's a great game. But, I was so sad that I had a frustrated time with it. And I was like, why do people like this? I don't get it. So I'm happy Mike is here to be like, no, it is good.
Yeah.
I haven't played it in years, but I mean,
There's going to be people that don't like things.
I did enjoy it. And it's also, it was canon at one time to the movies.
I didn't forgot who the main character was. Because like I said, I started up from an old save file that's like right at the start of the game. I was like, I don't remember. Am I?
Oh, Riley's daughter.
Oh, okay. Because I there's a cutscene. It shows her
Ripley?
badges. Ripley.
Ripley, yeah.
It shows Ridley. I was like, oh, so is this like a reboot of? And then that makes more sense because I was like,
Yeah, it's her daughter. It takes place between 1 and 2, where she goes missing and doesn't show up, and then her daughter goes looking for her.
Neat. Yeah, I think a lot of what's in there is probably really happy to hear. Yeah, go play it.
No thanks.
Don't. Do not.
All right. Yeah, I don't plan to. My number 8, we are going back to the 90s. On the Genesis, we're talking about Haunting, starring Poltergeist. Any takers?
That one I have never heard of.
Starring Poltergeist?
Poltergeist. You play as Poltergeist, is a teenager who died from a faulty skateboard and goes back to haunt the CEO that owns this company, Vito
I'm already
Sardini,
sold.
and his family. Was his name Poltergeist before he died? This seems ominous. But anyway.
I don't know, but I love this. This is something I'm really happy you bring up because I was like, I'm sure there's a lot of older games that are really cool and good, but I don't know any of them.
Oh,
this
man.
looks fun as hell.
I ran the shit out of this thing back in the day. You play as this ghost Poltergeist, and you can like jump into items to possess them to scare the family through 4 different houses. And like each member of the family has things that they're more afraid of than others. And their stupid dog can always sense where you are. And only today in my research that I found that this was ported to the PSP via a game called EA Replay, which I did not know was a thing.
That
So,
is almost as hard to get as playing the original, sadly. But looks so fun. He turns a coffee table into a giant spider. It's terrifying to look at.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Jump on the couch and it opens up like a mouth. It's good shit.
All the
Never
different
played
creative things they came up with that you can like possess and change, I think are really cool.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite tropes, and that's why this game is on my list. Possessing things. Mike knows this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I did just get to like a clip art of the boy, and he is very spooky in a way I don't like.
Oh man, he is super 90s.
The way they did his art makes me really uncomfortable and angry.
He looks like the bully from Doug. I can't think of his name.
Oh yeah.
Roger Klotz. He looks like him, but like all green, completely green, not just exactly.
There's a part that I'm just going through. It looks like you're in just like a hellscape.
Oh yeah, if you run out of energy, you go to like this underworld and you have to collect protoplasm before you can go back. And I think that's the only place where you can actually quote unquote die and lose the game.
See, yeah, no, this looks also terrifying in its own way. I don't know what the audio is, but yikes.
This game is super fun though. It's definitely worth at least fucking around with for like 20 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Star, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is a game I actually have played almost none of, but I know of it well enough, and I've seen a lot of stuff, but I just have to. It is Doki Doki Literature Club.
Oh, okay. That was on my honorable mention.
I saw it. Also, shout out to the Discord for Games My Mom Found. I saw somebody mention it. I'm really happy that I'm like, yeah, I did include that, because I think the genre of, I'm forgetting what that genre is called. Story-based.
Visual novel.
Visual novel,
yeah. I think visual novel has a very interesting breadth of potential horror games. This is probably just one of the most recent and popular ones. And also, spoiler, that's what I love and this game goes back to scary. If you know what the gambit is, it's not scary. But when this game first came out, and before I think it was just a free game that you could download. It was like, what is it? I don't know.
Still free.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it is? Yeah. Well,
On Steam only.
Yeah, on PC.
Yeah, so, it's this thing. You go play, and then, hey, fun. It's actually terrifying, and there's a lot of things. And I am glad that there are things that they've done better, like when they did later releases. And they obviously, the gambit at that point is dead, but if you were even still in the dark, it's like, hey, we are going to have some trigger warnings for this, because there is some pretty heavy stuff in this game that I'm glad.
I don't know anything about that game still. That's one of the games that I've been able to stay oblivious to.
I did for a very long time, because I knew there was something weird about it back, probably the first year or two was out, and eventually I just was like, I'm never going to play this, so I looked it up, and I watched a lot of stuff about it because I was really interested. And I think it's just solid, and I think a lot of people put on their lists. I think it's a very just great game for what it is, and in my list, shout out to this genre, that I'm sure there are many great games that you could check out that are scary AF.
Is there a content warning at the beginning?
There is a newer versions. So that was one that included. Because, and that was something that they took as feedback as the company. And they were like, hey, we're going to make buy versions you can buy to have like boxes. And they're like, we are also going to include some updated things, including trigger and gore warning. Because
I would say it's one of those things because, like you said, so much of that is not having the experience spoiled, but at the same time, because of the places that it goes, I feel like I have to at least kind of give that warning to people whenever I recommend it, because it really comes in a shocking. The transition is shocking, is all I will say.
Yeah, and I think it does some really interesting, immersive, out of game stuff. At least the original did. I don't know how that works on like the Switch version, but like, you know, stuff that messes, like creates files, some of that stuff, which is always fun and reminds me of like the old days of scary viruses and stuff, being like, oh, what's going on? Breaking the fourth wall a little bit. Spoilers for stuff, but yeah, it's a really solid game. I've never personally put a lot of time into it, but I think definitely it's worth it.
I like to imagine there's someone listening to this episode that's only ever seen like the box art and like, why is this on a horror game list? Has no idea.
There's also another person who's like, just my place, they're throwing their keyboard like, damn it, fuck, they said for immersion breaking, damn,
You ruined it.
Sorry.
I'm really curious about it too, and I've had people that have been on the show had told me like, yeah, you should play it, but it's fucked up. Like,
yeah, I've seen enough to know that I never need to play it.
Yeah, and that's kind of when I finally did look it up and I saw like a lot of stuff. I was like, okay, I'm more okay I didn't play it, but I think it was really cool to, you know, again, there's this era that's so hard to like release a game and it's like, oh, I don't know, it's a game, go play it, it's fun. It's like, oh no, it's actually something else. And that's so hard to do. Probably only indies can do it. Then I think it's hard for them to get their game out, be popular enough to reach that level of knownness with being, you know, not what it seems.
Okay, I should play it because I can put it on my Steam Deck.
I feel like this is really gonna timestamp these like few episodes for this month.
When my guy's his Steam Deck.
Oh, it's fucking nice. I'm playing Portal 2 on it every night now. Like, I'm like, God, this is wonderful.
If that's the only criteria, you have a lot of games to play.
Oh, I haven't. Once I get the emulators up and running, it's going to be the end of the world then.
Yeah, that does seem to be like where it really would pop off for me. So I respect it.
I haven't gotten around to that part yet, but it's coming.
Lucas, what is your number 7?
My number 7 is a little known gem called BioShock. It's, again, whenever we so let me figure out my thoughts, get them composed. Whenever it comes to horror, I definitely fall in the camp of atmosphere is more important to me than jump scares, and BioShock is just dripping in good atmosphere. And
really,
yes, exactly. And it's not even just
got that. Damn it!
The city's underwater.
You have that written down. You're like, check that off. Got it.
And it's not even just the location and the kind of way that the city is destroyed, but similar to what you were talking about with Dead Rising Star, of the characters that it introduced you to who have lost their minds. Like, the one that stands out to me is Sander Cohen, the surgeon. That is a legitimately, I remember playing through that the first time, and it was nighttime, and I was like, you know what? We're going to wait until the morning. This dude's got people hanging up and taking pictures of him and saying weird stuff in his speech. It's dark in here. Good. And I was surprised. It really gets unsettling at points in ways that I think is difficult for games to do sometimes.
It's good stuff.
As you're talking about it, I'm realizing how much of that game I don't remember, and it makes me want to go back and play it.
Oh, absolutely.
It still holds up super well. I love it.
If you grab every free game on Epic like I do, you might have it in your Epic and not even realize it.
I also know, that was the thing I think was really sad, is I think they had a really good opportunity to capture that feeling for a lot of people with the remasters, and then the remasters were not good. And that makes me sad, because I remember that was a big time. I was like, maybe I'll go back. About? I thought when the remasters came out, there was a huge issue with that.
For BioShock?
Yeah, that people didn't.
No, they're good.
The subtitles is the only issue, or in-game text in general is super small on all three of them. It is, you can't change it unless they have patched it since I checked it out. But it just makes it really difficult whenever for someone like me who is playing on PlayStation 4, sitting in my TV, I just couldn't play through it because I kept having to get up and walk over to the screen to try and see what the menus were. It's really that small. It's insane.
Oh, wow. Okay. I played it on PC and I had absolutely no issue with the version. So
Yeah, I'm looking up quickly. I'm not finding anything. I mean, I must be misremembering. Someone's like, "Oh, I thought you could pin splicers to the walls," and it's like, "Oh yeah, that you can't do that anymore." And I'm like,
That game is Fear that they're talking about.
"Yeah,
You can pin
maybe."
fuckers in the wall in Fear.
But yeah, there's something I see. Oh, I'm sure.
But yeah, no, play it. I mean, I played it on PC. I've beaten it. I played it twice for the show. Fucking loved it. Play it again. Like it's one.
It holds up.
Play the
2.
trilogy.
1 and 2 are such great games. God, they are
Infinite
just
is fine.
I really like
Bill
Infinite
Tucker,
too.
can you hear
I'm a
it?
big
Bill
fan.
Tucker,
Yeah, don't listen
are
to
you shaking
Bill.
all of a sudden for no reason?
I
Nothing.
haven't got to play the DLC for Infinite, and I really want to do that. I don't think I want to play Infinite again, but I do want to play that DLC that I've heard.
The DLC is great.
Play 1 and then play Burial at Sea.
Oh,
Play 'em all.
I like that theory.
Oh, yeah,
I think I'm good. Infinite.
Just play them all. I mean, Infinite's still good. It's just not. There's just issues with that game, and it's not as good as 1 or 2, but it's still
It's
good.
great. Elizabeth is fantastic. But yeah, if
Yeah.
you're gonna play 1, immediately play Burial at Sea.
And then you can
Okay.
cry.
Yeah, well, we'll get. Where are we at? Mike's number 7.
Yes.
Did we do?
My number 7 involves holding a flashlight.
Yes.
Well, at least not in my version. Doom 3, which is partly biased because I just played it recently.
I thought it was
But-
gonna be Alan Wake, and I got
3.
really excited.
I like Doom 3 a lot. I played it for the show, and earlier this month, and I had a great time. Like it is, or no, last month. I still really enjoy Doom 3. I think that game does a great job with atmosphere. Game is creepy as fuck. Like it's a good game.
I have heard this a lot about Doom 3, is that it kind of seems like one of these games that when it came out, people hated it. But in coming back, a lot of people seem to give more love for it back then when it did. And it's made me, I wanted to play Doom 3 at one point.
You should.
And I keep hearing this. That makes me curious.
The BFG version, because they took care, they got rid of the stupid flashlight mechanic where you always have a flashlight out. It just has a rechargeable battery.
Yeah, and I think that was a thing I've heard, is that like some people think
It's not as bad as Fear, Mike.
some people think the game was worsened by that change, because I think there were basically stands of the original who were like, yeah, the flashlight is annoying, but that's the point. It's supposed to be scary and annoying. You know, kind of things like Silent Hill 2 is what I would equate it to. It's like, yeah, it's supposed to be annoying, but it's also scary because you're switching between flashlight and gun and being like, oh, it's dark, but you're shooting. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it kind of sounds attractive to do that in a way.
I highly recommend playing it though. Like I had a great time playing the BFG version. I think it's still held up, as creepy as fuck, and it feels very much like a horror game when it starts off, but after a while you get way more powerful and it feels better. But
I wonder if that's why it was possibly like divisive at the time because I mean Doom was never really rooted in strong horror, right? With 1 and 2 is more just fun FPS game, right? Kind of similar to the 2016 and most
I think
Doom Eternal.
My understanding as a younger person, it was kind of scary imagery, because you're like, like not a lot of scary games were super prominent, but that one was like, oh, you're fighting demons and they're spooky looking. And I think there are maps that were scary that'd be like, oh, you're in the dark and you're going around corners. But I think, there was a lot more action to it, especially as time went on.
Oh yeah, especially with the early Dooms. Doom 3 it's very. I mean, you have lots of places with lots of zombies that come out of nowhere. You have lots of weird shit happening to you that I think did a very good job of
Got
keeping on edge.
that moody lighting,
Yeah.
made possible by the unbelievable power of the Xbox.
The original Xbox. Back to the flashlight real quick. It reminds me of like one of the first mods I remember for video games is just called the duct tape mod, where you could duct tape the flashlight to the pistol.
I
Yep.
do remember that. I remember. Wow, that's a weird memory to get back. Because
That's all I got.
All right. Well, my number 7 is the most recent game I think on my list. This is Vampire Survivors.
Oh,
You got to know this one. It's kind of blowing up right now.
Yeah. It really is.
oh, yep. I spent some time with this one.
So this one is what people have affectionately started calling a reverse bullet hell, because you are the one that's sending out the wave of death in all directions. You basically play as a character that, I guess each character has their own starting weapon, and you kill enemies and they drop crystals, they give you experience, and you level up. And every time you level up, you can add another weapon, or you can upgrade them, or you get a passive item. And by the end of the 30-minute runtime per stage, you're just like raining death in 360 degrees around you. Like I've sent Mike a couple of videos where it's just pure insanity by the 30-minute mark.
I need to check this game out.
People love it. It's also a cheap game too, I think.
Yeah, it's $3.
It's also Game Pass PC, and it's also just about to get, I think, a 1.0 release. It's going to update a lot of stuff. So
I'll definitely be there for the 1.0.
I should pick it up.
They've been adding stuff to it constantly. Like every couple of weeks, they're adding more weapons and enemies and stages and crap.
Yeah, I definitely there was like a good 2 weeks that I was just playing this game a lot. I put in my time, and I was pretty content with it. As a fun note about this too, I don't know if anyone's been on mobile game scene. There is so many bad, awful clones of this game now. It's blown up a lot. Which is also funny because actually this Vampire is actually kind of a clone of a mobile game that was not super popular. They're very similar in like almost 1-to-1 in a lot of ways, minus just the art and the theme is very different. And it kind of makes me sad because I've played that. My friend told me about it. I looked up. It's really fun. I think Vampire is just a little more fine-tuned to be more like enjoyable than the original, but I can't remember the name of it. I don't have my phone on me. But yeah, it's totally fun. And I think for the price, you are getting a good time if you like it. You know, if you want, buy it on Steam. If you don't like it, return it. If you have Game Pass, boom, go try it there. You know,
that Castlevania coat of paint really helps too, because a lot of it is just like straight ripped out of Castlevania.
I didn't even think about that, but that tracks. I mean, one of your optional starting weapons, or like one of the main starting characters, is just whip. It's like, I wonder where.
The first starting character is basically just a Belmont, and you're fighting zombies and basically sprites ripped from Symphony of the Night. It's amazing.
Okay, you have my attention now.
This is the best podcast game, Mike.
Okay. I can
right.
live with podcast games.
We are up to stars number 6, I believe.
Mine is an interesting one, probably, and it's not one entirely many people get to know or probably experience because it is called Duck Season and it is a VR exclusive game. I really wanted to put a VR game on here, and I spent some time because I have a Vive and I've done a lot of stuff. But I actually even played Duck Season, but I've watched a lot of game playthroughs of it. It's not a super long experience. It's also kind of a spoiler. It's another one of these like, oh, if you don't know what it is going in, because it opens as just you're a kid in like an 80s scenario in front of a tube TV playing Duck Hunt. Wink, not Duck Hunt. Duck Season. But you get to go like because you're playing VR, it sucks you into the game. I don't remember if it's actually in game is what's happening, but you're in and you're like in this like computer generated feel and you're shooting the ducks in VR and it's really cool. And it starts off this fun little thing, but then it takes a longer turn and it starts like getting scarier on the outside world, and you're in the mindset. It literally sets this amazing scene of you are a kid hanging out playing Duck Hunt on a fun little like Friday night. Your mom's in the kitchen behind you making dinner, or like, oh, we'll just get a pizza, and you're like, oh. And then it starts getting spooky and shit starts getting weird. And you're like, did I just see the dog in the window? No, that can't be it. Let me go just play another round. And yeah, and so it does some really interesting stuff. And I think it's only like a few hours long.
Okay.
This company went on to make a follow-up game called Boneworks. And that is a much more lengthy, well-known VR game. But like this was the first thing they did. It's kind of just like a smaller thing. And I think out of a lot of, again, I looked at a lot of different horror games that are on VR, and there's a lot of like ones that are interesting or good in different ways, but I think this one is a great example of like really fun gun mechanics, really fun unknown spooky horror thing that comes up, and it's so good. I love it so much, and I don't think I've played a minute of it.
I was hoping you're going to tell me that the sequel is called Rabbit Season. I was going to be very happy.
Rabbit Season.
But it gets really scary. Like, it's really terrifying because it's some people even today, from what I've heard, think that dog is kind of, A, either annoying as hell, or B, kind of like spooky, like the laugh it does. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of just takes that and runs with it. And it's like, hey, what if he's just real creepy? What's he doing with those ducks? Where are they going?
This is the biggest crime to Smash Brothers is they changed the ducks or the dog's laugh.
Oh, yep. Yeah. So I remember that. What a good show.
Just gave him the muddly.
Yeah. So if you have a Vive headset, go play it. There you go. For the one person who hopefully listens to this, it's like, oh, okay, sure.
Lucas, you're number 6.
My number 6 is Inside. I really struggled between whether I wanted to go with Limbo or Inside. I think Inside is definitely the better game, and actually after replaying it fairly recently, I do think it's scarier than Limbo. Like, there is something, again, big atmosphere person, there is something so unsettling about that game just the entire time you go through it. It also has my favorite, or at sometimes least favorite, the scariest thing to me, it'll always be girls with, the long black hair over their face. Blame that on The Ring. Scarred me as a child. Scared me ever since. It's the reason I didn't like horror until I was kind of getting into my upper mid-teens. And it just does it all so well. And it constantly has you just kind of clenched, just waiting to see like what, like, okay, like that looks kind of off. Like what's going on in the background right there? Okay, now I'm in this area. Okay, why is this thing chasing me? And then it continues to build on that until an insane finale that I'm sure many people have heard about or seen or had somebody tell them about it.
What's this again?
Inside.
Okay.
It's fantastic. If you haven't ever played it, there's no excuse. Like go play that.
I didn't like it, but I have played it.
I played a lot of Limbo, and I know I spent some time with Inside. I didn't think it was that creepy, and I thought there was the same thing. There's vibes like, is there something creepy going on?
Oh, it's creepy.
I always kind of wait. I was like, maybe I'll hold off, and I was like, oh, I'll watch it. I just clicked to the end, and right as you were talking about something spooky happens, it's happening. I'm like, oh God, no.
Yeah, that's kind of where I landed. Like,
gets
what
weird as
the
fuck
is happening?
If you don't have that spoiled for you, it is one of the most insane things.
Oh yeah,
that just happens.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't spoiled for me.
As someone who thought, I wish I didn't know this, take it from good old Luke. Go do that, because it's weird as hell, and it's giving me
real weird.
Whoa, I love it, and it's. Oh, I'm gonna stop.
But I don't think the whole experience hinges on just that finale.
No.
Though. Like, even though that is great, like I said, there's moments in between. In particular, like the section that I'm talking or was referring to, as far as like having a kind of that creepy girl with the long hair who is kind of following you around, and like your puzzles kind of start to revolve around her, similar how they did with the spider in Limbo. Mm-hmm. And it's just 1,000 times creepier to me than the spider was. And I hate spiders.
Yeah.
And I think that is again, I struggled with picking, like the spider did scare me in Limbo, but there was something about Inside, like getting to that section. And I was like, there's a fucking little girl and she's falling. Like, this is not what I signed up for.
Remember any of this?
Limbo's aesthetic is really cool, but I think it kind of works against it in a horror aspect, because it kind of comes off as cartoony. It was just nothing but black and white. This little splashes of color and Inside really do it a lot of favors.
I totally see that, but for me, Limbo just still holds it out in my heart. Like, I know I never fully played this all the way through, but I think Limbo, like, I think for me, I think the way they counter that a little bit is I was almost sorry with the lack of atmosphere, because like I remember there being so little music, and then just the sound of like a spider claw, just like like, oh God, get away. And so
that's another sound design, unbelievable in both games.
Yeah, 100%. Either of these games are solid.
I did not think to put Limbo on my list. I absolutely would have.
It's in my honorable mentions. I definitely thought about it, but I was like, I don't know. It's been too long, and looking at it, I was like, I just love it in a way that's not about horror.
Am I the only person that dislikes that game in general? Because I hate both of them.
You hate both of them?
Yeah, I don't like either of them. I think they're garbage.
Oh, wow.
I got no reason. I mean, I just know I played both of them. I did not enjoy either of them when I played them, and they bothered me a lot.
I get it.
Yeah.
Puzzle platformers.
Yeah, I think I definitely get the mechanics sometimes being annoying. I will 100% give it that. Where you're like, oh, I know what I need to do, and it's taking me longer than I'd like to do it because I'm trying to get this jump down. So.
Oh man, that was Braid. Like, even with the time rewinding, like line up the jump, hit the thing. God damn it, just do it, do the thing.
That game was not good.
I love that game.
Okay, we'll have to talk about that another time.
I played it once. I beat it. I got a bunch of achievements, but I don't remember. I don't have good memories of it. But maybe it's been a long time.
I really like that game, but one of the last puzzles, like, always is kind of me throwing myself at the wall until I finally get it. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about.
We're not here to talk about Braid.
We're here to talk about Mike's number 6.
Condemned Criminal Origins.
Yes.
Nice. I have not played it in years. It has been on the list to put on the show multiple times, and I keep taking it off for different reasons. But I remember really liking it, and it's a first-person shooter where you trying to make you're being framed for a murder you didn't commit, and it's a very brutal first-person game with lots of melee weapons, and I remember just being really good.
It's a really strong mannequin.
I haven't played it in a long time.
Sim. I was going to say that too.
Yeah,
what about it?
The mannequin scene. If you don't like mannequins, there's a real good scene in that game.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. I have it on PC because it's also on Steam, but the second one's not on Steam for some reason.
The second one's also good.
Yeah, I don't remember. I beat both of them. I don't remember anything about the second one at all, and I vaguely remember the first one. I just know that I want to replay them again one day for the show.
I would recommend it. It's on my honorable mention list. Pretty short game. I think that's like the one knock I have against it. And the melee combat at the time I think it's fine. I worry about trying to go back to it with as heavy of a focus as it has on melee.
Too bad. And when you say short game, I get happy. But that's because I play.
Yeah, it's not really a knock against like.
Yes, more.
It's just one of those things. Like it got a sequel, so I can't complain too much about it being short. But
it's also early 360, if I remember right.
Yeah, it was one I think like the first. I want to say 10 or 50 games that came out for the Xbox.
It was an early one.
It's also made by Monolith, same people that made Fear.
That's such an interesting, like, weird difference. Like, you say it and I see it, but I would never have made that connection before you said it.
I didn't know until Wikipedia told me.
All right.
Yeah, that's all I got.
We're up to my number 6. Star, are you ready to talk about Dead Rising again?
I want to talk about it all the time, and every time I'm on here, I bring it up, and I want Mike to play it. Please, God, talk about it.
I tried to get Mike to play it before. He wouldn't go for it. But
I've invited Mike. I'm like, listen, I'll go play it, and you go watch. I don't care.
I want to specifically talk about Dead Rising 2.
That is the second best Dead Rising. I'll give you that.
It's a real good one. It's the first one that introduced the combo weapons. And what was that sound?
That's why you like it.
Yeah,
I forgot it had combo weapons. I'm like, oh, there we go.
I think that was one of the things they added that was really fun in theory, but I don't know. The difference between the physics engines of those two games is just night and day for me. I don't like 2's physics engine, so even though the combos are really cool, but anyway, sorry, you go. Talk about why 2 is a good horror game. I'll never shut up.
Oh, I'm not going to talk about why any of my games are good horror games, but it's a good game that has horror elements to it.
Yeah, no, so why 2 over 1? Because I think that's a really interesting
crafting.
Well, yeah, crafting's part of it. 1 has its jank to it. I feel like
100%.
Yeah, just the movement alone in 2 feels a lot smoother, and I find myself getting attacked less.
That's so wild. It's the exact opposite for me.
Really?
Wow. I think here's the thing I think that's weird about 1, and this is probably the smallest niche of gaming that I belong to, that it's like a Dead Rising 1 stand. It's probably one of my top 3 games of all time.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Even today.
I mean, it's great.
I think I've played it so much that I know how to maneuver through crowds and like the paths of certain areas.
Oh, yeah.
In certain maps, zombies won't spawn in certain areas. Like, it's very hard to tell, but it's like, oh yeah, they're more centralized. And in the Alfresco Plaza, if you stick to the left, there won't be as prominent. Or there's this one workout room that they can't break the glass. So if you need a break, cut right, clear at the zombies, move them. And I literally can see it in my head. I've played it so much.
Run on all the treadmills to get PP, and they just kind of stare at you as you're running on them.
But 2, I just feel so clunky. They're like, especially like fighting psychopaths, which was a big part of 1 that I still love. I had such a hard time. Like, I know what I want to do, but just getting it to do it. And I think Frank also gets speed movements, and I think Chuck gets them too. But I think in 1, it helps a lot for how much faster you move at level 50 rather than 1. But 2, I don't know.
There's almost too much emphasis on the combo weapons. It kind of gives you less incentive to use the normal items that you find laying around. I don't think we really talked about it, but for those who don't know, Dead Rising's big claim to fame was pretty much anything you see laying around you can pick up and use that as a weapon, like sandwich boards and 2x4s and just anything.
Milk jugs.
And I think it kind of went
Mega Man Buster.
Pies. Well. That's so there's the thing. You take a pie in Dead Rising 1, you throw it in a zombie's face and he's blind. And then you can take a picture of it and it gives you comedy points. This is a genius. It's no other game. But yeah, I think also removing the camera thing was interesting. Because it was such a central point of 1 that was really strong for what it was. It was a very side element. Like, after you played enough and you don't need experience, there's no reason to do it except for, like, quests. But, like, to take it out and then have 2, I don't think 2 really supplemented that. I think it was maybe, in a way, a smart, good choice, but...
They immediately backpedaled it with Off the Record, which was Dead Rising 2, but you play as Frank, so all that stuff's back in anyway.
Yeah. 2,
Off the Record.
1, I think that's a really big difference between 1 and 2 for me that I really want to point out and why I think I just love 1. 1, the protagonist is a regular Joe who occasionally has a clever line. He's a regular guy in a weird situation.
He's covered wars, you know.
Damn it, you beat me to it.
I knew you were going to go there.
Exactly. And that's the thing. When he says it in the first one, he says it completely seriously. And it's the most ridiculous shit. Like, just said this about if someone asks if you can use a gun. But in 2 and onward, They got so ham-fisted with it. And Chuck has this attitude of like, let me say the cheesy line, like, ugh, smoke that guy. And I'm like, God damn it, Chuck. No, it's not fun or cool anymore. It's cool when Frank says it because he's like an idiot. And it's like, did you mean to say that? Are you being funny? I don't get what's happening.
It's Frank's in 4, right?
Yeah, Frank's in 4.
But
Okay.
he's not really Frank anymore. A, different voice actor, which was a big shift. And B, his personality is completely different.
Okay, and I know 3's somebody else, right?
Yeah, 3 is.
I don't even remember his name.
We don't talk about 3 in these parts. If I'm around.
I will say, in favor of Dead Rising 1, they did have to put a sticker on the Xbox 360 case saying that this game is not in any way related to Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, yeah.
God. I do. Yeah.
Which is still hilarious to me.
All right, so 1, you spray a zombie with a fire extinguisher and it covers them in the powder stuff. 2, you spray a zombie with a fire extinguisher and it freezes them and you can shatter it. Point 2.
Yeah, that's good gaming.
Both are solid and different reasons. I will fight. I'm not. We can't. I will have a private episode of you discussing Dead Rising 1 and 2 and off the record for what it's.
So I'm going to divert you then, and you're going to tell us your number 5.
Thank you. I need something to take my mind. Hey, it's BioShock. We've been here before.
Hey.
Except I haven't played it in a long time, so it doesn't stick out as well. So I feel like
You should. It's real good.
So all those things Lucas said earlier, just again now.
Yeah, exactly. I'll see if I can. I don't even remember what Lucas said. It's been so long, my memory's off. I'll see what I summon up and hope it's different.
Would you kindly?
Yeah, there you go. I think that's it. And we're getting this thing that you've said a lot, Michael, is that a lot of my top 5 are not really traditionally horror games. They're really strong games that have really good horror moments or things that I think make it like really
That's
good.
fine. That's why this wasn't survival horror, because me and Mike would only have like 2 games then.
I could fill a list, but I wouldn't have a whole lot to say about them.
And I think BioShock is I think it's probably one of the strongest games on the Xbox 360. And it spawned such a massive series. But for what it was is the first game in terms of like, it has no footing. It has no foot to stand on. When you walk in, is it a good game? And it was so good. And I think it's apparently today it still holds up, is what I'm hearing, and it makes me go play it.
I played it twice.
This was 2, wasn't it? Circus of Values. Was that one?
That's 1.
That's 1.
Oh, okay, good.
I might be in 2 also. I can't remember.
Yeah, there's another point for 1 of why one's better, or at least really good. Circus. That's all. That's what really stuck in my brain. All these things. I think me and my friends used to just say that to each other in high school, like regular kids who have no concept. There's a group of kids. What are they talking about? All you hear is 3 kids going, Circus of Valleys. You're like, all right, I'm not talking to those kids. I don't know what's going on in there.
Weirdos.
But yeah, no, I just remember, and I mean, the story's so good. Like, as you brought up as a joke, but yeah, a man chooses, a slave obeys, and it's such a good story.
It's real good.
All right.
So nice how they kept that story good. They didn't go into stupid racism and all sorts of other stuff. But hey, I'm so glad.
Lucas, what's your number 5 before I hit Mike through the internet?
Yeah, for my number 5, we're going to Bright Falls because Alan Wake is really good. And I haven't played it in a while. I definitely intend on, if not replaying it for this Halloween, I will be playing through it pretty soon, like in the next coming months, to get prepped for Alan Wake 2.
Oh, yeah.
But just solid. Like, I really like the blend of kind of the camp and really leaning into this writer coming to the town. Like, he's reading his pages. This stuff is happening. Like, all of that is a lot of fun to me. And I think they obviously, expanding on it with Control, like those writers know what they're doing whenever it comes to kind of that kind of slightly off kilter world. And then the actual horror elements, as far as like the stuff at night, is really cool, I think, and effective. I think the flashlight mechanic is super interesting and kind of unique. And then there's some solid, just straight up horror set pieces in there that I think they do really well. Like the lodge comes to mind. I think that's great.
It is.
And just where the story goes in general, the cliffhanger that it ends on, it's all super well done. I can't wait to revisit it and then play the sequel.
Oh, man. The more you talked about it, the more like, oh man, I need to replay that again.
Yeah,
we're all just children of the elder gods. Okay,
and it got a remaster too. Like I'm excited to check it out again.
I think that's a really big reason I want to play it, and I'm sad because I played Control recently and I couldn't love it, and I really wanted to. I think it's a good game, and I think it does everything that does great. But I was just thinking of, man, I want to play Alan Wake, and that's what I'm trying to get at here. So I'm really happy they're doing this.
Yeah, I'm glad there's a sequel coming because the ending of this game didn't make any damn sense.
Well, then that's the other thing. I recently tried playing American Nightmare, and it's so weird and like not Alan Wake. It is Alan Wake, but it's not. And I was like, I can't do this either. I just need to go play Alan Wake. That's what it is.
I've never touched any of the DLC.
I haven't either.
You're not missing anything with the two DLCs or Alan Wake, the Signal and the Light. I think they're kind of cool, but they don't wrap up the story. Unfortunately, they're worth playing if you got them for free. And then the American Nightmare, I think, was all right. Played it once.
Yeah, it's definitely different. It was when it came out it was a Xbox Live Marketplace exclusive game, so it was that big of like, yeah, it's kind of the same thing, but it's different, but not enough to make its own game.
It was the cool thing to do back then, because speaking of Dead Rising 2, we got Case Zero.
I will argue that might be the second best Dead Rising game. I may change my answer to that and then Dead Rising 2.
I had to fire that up. I haven't played that probably since 2 came out.
It's very short.
It's almost
easy,
impossible.
200 points.
It's very hard to do today, sadly. Like, I think because they basically did remasters. I'm sorry, we shouldn't go back there. They did remasters like everything except that, so it's really hard to access. That makes me upset. Anyway, Alan Wake, great game. I love
it. Okay, I'm just listening to Children of the Elder Gods while you talk.
I 100%. Oh, I love it.
Well, stop listening. Tell us your number 5.
My number 5, which just got changed because I apparently can't count and didn't have Alan Wake on my schedule. It's on now, but my number 5 is Bloodborne, a game that is really damn good. Mm-hmm. I came into it with no expectations when I first played it. Oh, God, I want to say the year before I started the podcast, or just right before I started the podcast, and that game is fantastic. It's so fucking creepy. It's so damn hard in a way that, like, but you really feel something as you learn to play Bloodborne. And I highly recommend it to anybody. I mean, it's too bad it's locked on the PS4 because, it should be everywhere.
They're going to announce that remaster any day now.
I hope so. I really hope they do. And a Bloodborne.
Oh, it would make them so much money.
I forget.
It's a great game, and it's so different than the Dark Souls series, like the other one, because you don't have a shield. There's no blocking. You roll and you smack, and that's it. You have to.
There's a shield that does nothing.
Yeah, it's very aggressive.
It's literally just to tell you, fuck you. There's no there's only guns.
But it's such a creepy game. It's so good. And the things I love about the From Software games like Dark Souls and this, you can level up. So if you suck like me, I can just go farm enemies for hours and then all of a sudden go and beat a boss like they're nothing after a while.
There was a recent article title that just came out October 3rd. It says, rumored Horizon Zero Dawn remaster reports have Bloodborne fans fuming. And I'm like, it made me laugh a lot.
That's an amazing headline.
It's already like it's on PC now. Like it didn't need to be fucking Sony. Like just
but no, it's incredibly wild. I mean, here's the thing. I think
Bloodborne doesn't need a remake. It just needs to be re-released. Put it on PC.
I think any version of that would be acceptable.
I mean, I get it if you don't want to put it on Xbox, just put it on PC.
I mean, they did do it. I think it's going to be the same thing like they did with Dark Souls, or Demon Souls, where everyone for years is like, why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing this? And then they're like, oh, no, PS5's out. Have Demon Souls finally.
Well, Demon Souls was a PS3 game that didn't do well. That makes more sense to remake it.
Well, what I'm saying is it's this thing of they make you wait, and everyone wants it and demands it long enough. Yeah. I think Bloodborne will happen. It's just a question of when, because, God, if they don't, it'd be wild.
They were like, oh shit, we've only got 2 exclusives for the PS5. Remake that one game everyone wants.
It's really damn good. I mean, I recommend. I want to play it again, but I can't play it for this podcast. So
I will say something that Star mentioned earlier, like about how it really feels like the indie space is the only way that developers are willing to kind of hold their cards and not show everything whenever they're advertising. But to me, like that's why Bloodborne was so effective with its kind of horror elements or its Lovecraftian elements of like none of that stuff was talked about before the game came out. Like it was literally, hey, this is new game by the Dark Souls people. Mm-hmm. Like they were very showing off like the Victorian kind of era in town, and just didn't refuse to mention the kind of twist and turn that starts to go on as you get through the world, and it continues to get more and more cosmic and grotesque and stuff like that. And it's so effective of how they do such a good job of like hiding that off in the first kind of couple of areas. And it completely just continues to one up itself as the game goes on, whether it's like the actual areas that you're in, like just the environments get more creepy, but then the bosses get bigger and more disgusting and grotesque. Like it's so good.
I think that mechanic, I think that's just a great overall What sucks, I think the downside to it is that there is a mechanic in it that I don't remember how it activates, but if you get more insanity, something, it starts, then you see that stuff more. Certain enemies.
Yeah, your insight. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's totally missable. And that's something then that I think is a fun thing to learn and go back.
That's From Software. That's like any From Software game I play it the wrong way, as people would say. I watch videos and videos. Like when I played Dark Souls 1, 2, and Bloodborne, I got obsessed with them, where I would, anywhere I went, I'm sitting there watching videos. I was in the bathroom at work watching Dark Souls videos. Like everything I did for that like 2 months was Dark Souls. It's that's how I get.
That's my point. You mentioned it earlier that the Demon Souls didn't do super great, but that mechanic is very prominent in that game, and it's totally missable. And I think that's something that's really hard. And even we talked about AAA's doing this. Spoiler for a Sony exclusive that I haven't played yet, but apparently the new Horizon Zero Dawn did this to some extent. But it got pretty mediocre reviews and not a lot of attention, but apparently there's something in that game that totally gets wild at a certain point, and now it's like, knowing that, I want to play it, but it sucks when there's this element, and it's like, how much do I show you and tell you? One is the studio who's producing it, and two is your friend who wants to sell you on this game, and it's so hard.
Well, when they remake it next year, they'll make that more prominent.
You're right. So,
all right, my number 5, we're halfway through this list, so I'm going to throw a curveball. Is The Darkness 2 and Carrion.
Carrion. Is that Metroidvania type game?
Yes. So these are both games where you play as the bad guy, and it's kind of like a reverse horror game where you have all the power. Because
hold on, do you have 2 games here?
I do.
Confused.
Yeah.
These are my list, so I can do whatever I want.
Okay.
Star will remember this. Anyway, continue.
I always have to break my own rules when I make these stupid things.
I was so meticulous and careful. I was like, "Oh, am I doing this right?" You're
I
heard about Carrion, but it looks. I don't know.
Anyway, sorry, I derailed you. I was just confused. I'm like, I want to clarify because I'm sure someone's like, "Wait, is this 1 or 2 games?" Anyway, continue.
These are 2 different games that they kind of embody the same thing that I was going for here. Where you playing as the person with all the power, because in The Darkness 2, you're Jackie Estacado possessed by the titular darkness, and he kind of sprouts these tentacles out of his shoulders, and you can use them to, say, tear a guy in half from the torso, or rip a car door off and throw it like a frisbee, or just any number of things. And then,
I want that game remastered.
Oh my god, it's so much fun
together. I only played The Darkness 1. And I loved it for what it was.
Darkness 1 is good.
It is very good. 2 is totally different. It is way more actiony.
Like a rights issue or something with it too? I can't remember.
I think it's based on a comic, so probably.
It is based on a comic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Carrion, you play as like a symbiote alien, and you're lashing out at scientists and ripping them in half and eating them to get bigger, and they're such fun power trips.
I played a little bit of Carrion. It's very fun and different, and art-wise very gross, and kind of like Scorn that's coming out. Kind of, if you kind of think of that, but very different gameplay.
And sound design is just disgusting. The way it like crunches the bodies and stuff.
Ooh.
My biggest knock against is all the areas look pretty identical, and it can be hard to navigate. Like Control.
And you can only buy Darkness 2 on Steam. Darkness 1 is not on Steam.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, Darkness 1 is definitely good, but man, if you want a power trip,
I have more fond memories of 2.
Yeah, I think Darkness 1 is good for the era and cringy. I remember there's an achievement where you have to sit with your girlfriend in a movie for 5 minutes, and I'm like,
until she falls asleep.
Yeah, I think 2 is a little more on the nose and aware of itself. I think 1 was like, oh, I'm so edgy and dark, and I'm like, all right, calm down. I think back then, it was younger me. I was like, oh, he's so cool. Now I'd be like, all right, I get it. Shadow the Hedgehog. I don't know, calm down.
1, you've got to like take the metro to get from place to place.
Yeah,
and then you go to like this weird hellscape and fight these World War II zombies and shit.
They're World War I zombies.
In 2, you also had like a minion, didn't you? Like a companion?
Yeah, I would kind of put that as a knock against it, because you got to have the comic relief character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 2, from what I barely remember what I'm looking at, it kind of just really went a different direction and really steered
big
hard
time.
with it.
You could do these like finishers where you shove a tentacle down a dude's mouth, and it's called like Assecution or something. They're all stupid names. It's great. I love it.
The art also has cell shading, I think, a little bit.
Oh yeah, a little bit.
Did not have. It definitely seems a lot more like fun and colorful than 1. 1 definitely is the like.
Do you remember the side mission and one where this guy would throw 3 coins down onto the train tracks and you have to go get them before the train comes?
What?
No. I
It's
remember
real
not
dumb.
liking something about it. I don't remember what, but it was there.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's me breaking the rules.
There's a lot of Xbox 360s era stuff in here that's interesting. Anyway.
Good stuff. We're not done yet. All right, Star, what's your number 4?
I was curious. It's not my most modern, but it's one of my most favorite and rare in a way. It's PT. It's not technically Silent Hills. Fuck you, Michael. I love PT. It was one of the scariest things, and it was a beautiful love child that never got to be born, and it makes my heart hurt. But fuck, it's creepy, and it's real fun. Like, fun, I guess it's relative. I think as a game, maybe it's not good, but as a demo that makes you go, what the fuck is going on here? I want to know more. I want to get through this, figure out like what's going on. And a secret launch that came out of nowhere. I think PT is just solid in a lot of ways. It is very walking sim, but hey.
Is there any way to play it other than just finding an old PS4?
They just actually, they did this weird thing where they updated it. There's a lot of ways to load it on a PlayStation. They did. I just heard about this. There's something now. There's a way you can play it on a PS5. Actually,
even if you never had it before.
Well, you can't like go to the store and download it. But what you have to do is like get it on a flash drive, put it into your console, like the data, and like do something to get it to launch. It was a weird update that like I just read the article. I don't even think I read it, but I was like, oh, that's neat. PT on PS5. Woohoo. Huh. There are ways to do it that aren't as complicated as it would seem, especially if you have a PS4. But my PS4 actually does still have it. It's one of the few reasons I still have a PS4. I think someone else said that in the Discord too, and I was like, oh yeah.
Yep, I still have it on my PS4, and I play through it every Halloween. It's really good.
Yep. I don't think I ever could beat it because I got to the hallway scene, and it was back when it first came out. And that was the thing too. It was so like once the cat was out of the bag, what it was for. It was very much like, whoa, what else is in this demo? And then there was like a few secret things and people trying to dig as much as they could out of it, but there really, it wasn't that deep. But I think the culture around it coming out and the culture that it exists in today as still being a talking point, I think really speaks a lot for why it was so, cool back then.
Hashtag fuck Konami.
Yep. Also, always a good time to say hashtag fuck Konami. Anything that makes me get to say that, that's a positive.
I love how the demo plays with perception. Like that's, I don't know, I think that's such an interesting idea horror wise, and there's something about like being stuck in that hallway but noticing that this sometimes small changes, sometimes big changes. Like it really does a good job of keeping you on your toes, and it sucks that it's so difficult for people to experience it.
Yeah. Whenever I hear people talk about this, I always think of seeing someone round that corner and that big dude standing there and was like, fucking nope. No thanks.
I'm trying to remember. So PT came out in 2014. Demo for Resident Evil 7 came out in 2016. And I think that was another big thing, that there was a lot of theories and ideas that Resident Evil got a lot of inspiration from the popularity of PT. And I think that's also really prominent. Especially
it's inspired so much over the past few years.
Yeah. So like I think, even if Silent Hills never got to be, it has helped Resident Evil be where it is today, and I think that's also really prominent. That it's like it's why I put it up so high. I just kept thinking all these points where I'm like, fuck. Even though it's not technically a game, and it is a Silent Hills game, I can't not put it on this list because it's also spooky as shit.
Yeah, definitely. I hope Konami saw Resident Evil 7 come out those 2 years later, and how big it got, and there's like, fuck.
They were they're too busy going, how do we make more of our market about gambling in Japan? Because
Pachinko and Metal Gear Survive, baby. That's our future.
Fuck Konami. All right, we can move on.
All right, where are we at? Lucas is number 4?
Yes.
Yeah, my number 4 is The Evil Within 2.
Ooh.
I really like this game. I think it's underrated and more people should revisit it. Part of what makes me put it above 1 is the kind of middle ground open world kind of take that it does with its design of not being a completely open world game, but it does have you in an open hub area before you go into more linear sections. And some of the side quests in that hub are just so strong. In particular, there's one that stands out to me of you basically have a device that is giving you signals to where you can explore different points. And whenever these signals pop up, there's usually something going on around it that kind of like hints towards what you're going to be getting yourself into. But there's one specifically that starts out as a call from a woman. And again, going back to the spooky women with the long hair, it's got to be in there. And it does it super well. It's very effective. Like following that signal, it plays with you a little bit. You think it's a certain character that you already know, but then it transforms into another woman's voice. And then it just continues to get creepier and creepier as you go in there. It's a big highlight of that game for me. And then the other side quests are just as strong. And a lot of the main story beats I really like. It's a huge improvement over 1, in my opinion. And I think more people should play it.
I never played either. 1 was almost on this podcast a couple times, but my co-host then put other weird shit on that I never played. But at the time, one of my previous co-hosts, and I always want to play the series one day. I keep telling myself I'm going to touch them, but
I bought both of them, have not touched either one of them.
I have touched.
I don't
both
think
of
you
them
should.
a little bit, but not a lot, and I would like to more. I don't know. They never grab me, and it makes me sad because I've heard really cool things. I love sort of underground hits.
They look like Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, and I love Resident Evil 4. So you think it would click, but it just doesn't. And it makes me sad. I think 2. I think the opening was really dragging on, where I was trying to wait to get ammo and weapons, and just wasn't given to me, and I was like, damn, this is really frustrating. But I remember just 2 was so milky. That's the marketing was milky.
Oh yeah, the milk stuff is great.
It's still stuck with me even today, and that makes me want to play 2 for that, if nothing else. Like, damn.
Also visually great. Like 2 looks really good on PS4 or Xbox One. And that 1 is also a good experience. I just have some issues with that first one that they get addressed in the second one. In particular, with the first one, there's a lot of sequences with instant death kills that I'm not a fan of, and it can really kind of like drag your experience down whenever you are maybe in a boss fight that's more of like kind of your Resident Evil puzzle boss fight of instead of having to unload all your ammo into this creature, like there's a gimmick to it. So those instant deaths really kind of drag it down, along with some other minor quibbles that I have with it. But they're both good games. Okay. 2 is just better, and you should play it.
I do want to.
Sometime.
Not anytime.
Mike, what is your number 4?
My number 4 is Dead Space, the first one. The best one. The best one.
Debatable.
No, not for me. I love Dead Space, but for me, the series goes from the greatest to great to still fun. So
I don't want to play 3.
You should play 3. I just want
to play it with. That's the problem.
It's not bad. I really enjoy 1. I love the atmosphere of the Ishimura. I love the fact that he don't talk, which is perfect. He don't say a word to you.
Because now.
I know, and I like it better when Isaac didn't talk. I don't like it when he starts talking. I love the fact that Nicole's talking to you, and Nicole's just fine. She's just telling you things and trying to help you out.
Fine.
So weird. And I love all that. I love that game so much. I mean, we replayed it for the show 2 years ago, and it's just so much fun to me. It's one of those games that I loved it when it first came out. I've beaten it now 3 times, and I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah, that whole franchise is still fantastic. Like, I'm really excited for the remake.
Oh, I'm gonna play that remake.
It looks cool, but I just I don't care as much, I guess. But then again, I mean, I won't play it for 10 years probably. So
I was gonna say that's what's interesting is 1 is your favorite, seems by a lot, but then the remake's not interesting. Can you elaborate a little bit? Because I'm really curious about it.
It looks like the same game.
Yeah, but isn't it prettier? Isn't that like enough?
I don't need prettier when a horror game. I don't want it to look more realistic. I'm happy with looking ugly. I want it to be ugly.
Everyone's like, oh man, Callisto Protocol looks awesome. And I'm looking at these gameplay snippets. I'm like, no.
Yeah, thanks. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm not I like my horror games to be I actually lower settings on games on my PC a lot so it runs better. But also in horror games I like it better because then it looks it's more ugly and less scary.
I want to be able to look at something and not know what I'm looking at. And it'll look great.
Yeah, this was kind of what I mentioned earlier. This is a weird thing about horror games. We've touched on a little bit. It makes you more powerful, and to me, it's so much jump scare. And I just that's the thing is I would
so good.
And then I would just get angry and want to crush something and pieces.
I love how powerful you get in Dead Space 1. Dead Space 1 is also the game where achievement got me to play the game with only 1 gun, and now I have beaten the games. I went through the whole series, and all I play is with 1 gun, and I can't stop.
Yeah, that plasma cutter's real good.
Yeah. But no, I love Dead Space 1. I enjoyed Dead Space 2 a lot, but Dead Space 1, the atmosphere, the feeling, the claustrophobic, it does to me, it does not rival the game. But no, like, to answer your question more, I just don't care about the remake because I don't care. I have the original game. Now, Dead Space 4, I'd be more excited for to continue the story. I don't care. Plus, I don't buy games when they first come out. I just can't.
No, I mean, I definitely agree with you. For me, it'd probably be 1 is the best. 2, as I'm remembering more of what that game does with the story, I'm like, and like Isaac, I remember you're right. I'm like, yeah, Isaac is way more fun in 1. I think 2, they gave the character, the character they gave him, and the romance, and the like. Let's go more into the lore of this world. I was like, I don't like a lot of this. I like 1 just be like, spooky.
You need to learn about the marker star.
I don't, and then it's gonna make me poke his eye. There's a true.
Oh yeah,
I
there's that. Too, yeah.
I hate eye stuff. Oh god, I hate that.
Oh, that series has my favorite weapon in all of video games. Like I said in that episode 2 years ago, the Ripper is just amazing.
Is that the saw blade gun?
Yeah, the telekinetic suspended saw blade.
It's so
amazing.
Good.
Yep.
Good shit. All right, my number 4 is Left 4 Dead 2.
Yeah, that's the right choice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I mean it has Left 4 Dead 1 in it. It's just there's no reason to go back to 1 anymore.
I think small nitpicks. I think it's the only thing that bothered me. Doesn't it make the guns spawning in 1's maps different? Like, can't remember. I thought it does, and I had something. I
Wait,
still think
are the Left 4 Dead 1 maps in Left 4 Dead 2?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you still play as the survivors from 1.
I think it also has like the melee weapons, and it's weird. I think 1, I love 1 for his, but I totally think if you're gonna play play 2. Don't play 1.
Yeah,
silly.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of that's really different is it kind of limits how often you can melee into, whereas 1 you can just spam it.
Oh
but you don't have the actual melee weapons. You just have like the knockback.
Yeah, but no, I think Left 4 Dead 2. It was a game I also saw a lot in lists talking about Left 4 Dead, and I think it's an interesting thing because like. I think when I was a kid and playing it, it was so scary. And, even if you were playing with your friends, like somebody shoots a car and you're like, God damn it, Jim.
Oh, yeah.
And then the scream, but then the rush, there's that adrenaline and it pumps. You're like, oh, fuck. Even after it's happened the 40th time. Me and my friends tried so hard to beat No Mercy on the hardest difficulty, and we couldn't. Oh. And that's a different type of horror when you're like, oh, we're almost at the end of the level. All right, nobody fuck up. Oh, shit, I shot the car, and we all died. We have to start over. God damn.
For people that don't know, Left 4 Dead's kind of dictated by this AI called the Director, and it kind of decides that, oh, you're doing too well. Here's a horde of zombies. Let's, the fuck up your day. Or here's a special infected. You got the hunters that jump on you, the boomers that explode, the spitters. And jockeys are new to 2. They're fucks.
Or something.
I will say,
right up Lucas's alley.
Yeah.
The Witch.
Yep. And that's what I was going to say. I think 2 has a stronger levels, like design-wise. Mm-hmm. And in particular, there is one where you are going to either a mill or something like that.
Hard rain.
Yes. And it starts raining super hard to where you can't see super far in front of you. You have to go through this cornfield, and you just start hearing the cry of the witches, which is one of the best enemy designs in a horror game. And hearing one of those is already scary enough. But then you realize, oh, this isn't like Left 4 Dead 1 where they just sit somewhere and you have to avoid them. Like they are walking through the rain, just crying. And there's not just one of them, there's 12 of them.
Yeah, that particular level, the spawn's way more than normal.
It is so freaking creepy, and it's great.
Also, I'll shout out because it's something that's neat. A little niche, especially now, but Left 4 Dead 2 modding is a wild, beautiful thing. When you turn a tank into Shrek and it's blasting All-Star and you're fighting Shrek, it's hilarious. Or all the zombies are just Star Wars clone troopers or Teletubbies. It's beautiful. There's so much there that you can jump into. Or you're, hey, it's me, Hatsune Miku, and Dante from Devil May Cry, and we're on a journey together.
It's like Skyrim levels of random shit.
Yeah, and I think that's totally something that is great about 2. That it's just, I don't think it's with 1 at all.
I've never played 2.
Back 4 Blood came out and it's poo-poo. I didn't care for it at all.
God, I was so hype. I wanted to.
Oh yeah, big time.
But it makes me sad.
But you get cards in that.
Yeah, but here's more reasons to play more. It's cool. If I loved it more, this would be great. I'd play it all night.
Yep.
Left 4 Dead 1 was almost on this show. Then I rewrote the schedule when people quit.
Yeah. We're gonna do it someday.
Oh, I'd play it. I never played 2, and I only played 1. It's been a very, very long time.
That's one of those ones we'll have to play co-op together. Star, hit us with your number 3.
this is where my Silent Hill would be, Silent Hill 2, but since it's not that, following the rules.
Hey,
right?
that stipulation was only for me.
No, I thought it
clear.
was for everybody. But
I'm sorry.
It's okay. That's how I did it, because we took them out. I was like, where would I put it? I would have put Silent Hill 2 here, but instead, I have Majora's Mask. Because that game still makes me uncomfortable, even today. There's something, that moon face. Ooh, I don't like it. And also not the remake. I don't like the remake as much. I think but yeah, the imagery in that game is real creepy, and a lot of the like plots, a lot of the character faces, the scene anytime Link takes off a mask, like it's horrifying. That like the stuff they came up with, and then there's all this weird, and then there's the fourth zone, the last zone of the 4, is like this land about being dead, and it's so weird, and it's like really dark and like for what it is, and a lot of like weird background plot that's going on. It's really just kind of spooky, and they give you an ability to like make statues of your version of yourself, and they all look creepy.
Yep.
And on top of all this, it spawned one of the most oldest famous game creepypastas, Ben Drowned. Yeah, I think that is a really good symbol of like, even all these years later when creepypastas started becoming really prominent, someone's like, hey, I made a really good one about Majora's Mask of all things, and it's just spooky. I love it. It's a great game, and it's great spoops, even when it's not like, there's no way I think, it was ever advertised, or people would often think, oh, it's a horror game, but no, it is fucking creepy.
Yeah, it's a horror game.
Yeah. These are the picks that I was looking forward to. Is just like left field stuff. It's like, oh man, I never even would have thought of that.
No, I mean, I think if you think of Ocarina of Time, the area of the town when you're an adult, like outside the castle and in the city, it's like that, but a lot more and more stretched out. Where it's like, yeah, certain areas aren't creepy, but man, there's so many. Like even just the boss of the swamp map. I don't know why, but there's something about the character they made as this like masked figure, and the sound he makes and the way he moves. Oh, and Majora the boss fight. I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable, and the sounds he makes, like, and I'm like, oh god, stop, die, you weird little fucker. I don't like you. I didn't like it then, and I played it recently, and I still don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable, and I think that's great that it just does that.
It's like a normal Zelda game, but everything's just a little off.
Yep. And then, all the fan theories, I love those too. It's like, oh, Link's actually dead, or it's him accepting his death, and I'm like,
the 5 stages of death or whatever.
Yep, and I think that stuff's
5
really
stages.
neat.
Yeah, grief.
I think it has a permanence, and that Ocarina of Time doesn't have. And I think a lot of times when it's debated, like which one's better, there's just all these little things about 2. Also, I love the mechanic of going back in time and doing things better. I think it's great. Spoiler, it comes up again on my list, but I think that's something that really sticks with me, and I love it.
Fun games my mom found, Laura. If you go back and listen to this episode, you can hear Elena called Mike a bullshit Zelda game.
Yes, episode 25 or 26. I can never remember, but it's in there.
Mike, you're hurting me.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't like Majora's Mask before I played it for the show.
That hurts in a different way. That's upsetting.
Yes, I loved it.
Yeah, it's great. Like, I don't know. It's so weird to me when people A, compare them, and B, get mad that Majora's Mask like exists, or it's like, oh, it's not as good as Ocarina. It's like, what does it need to be? Damn, bro, chill.
They made it in like 6 months. It's kind of a technical marvel.
Yeah, it's also a really interesting choice with that. I mean, that's the reason why, realistically, but the fact that it's a story, they're like, we're going to reuse a lot of these models in completely different ways. And it's like, why? That's so weird. What's going on here?
Money.
The intro of that game is also really weird in what it does. Like, that door you enter is never brought up again. Again, probably goes back to like a 6-month crunch and not a lot of time, but it's weird that like
there's like
place through a tunnel. I don't know. There's something weird about it. That's why those fan theories, I like them because there's a small part of me that thinks there's something there that is going on that we're never going to know.
When in actuality, it's like, well, we need to get this somewhere outside of Hyrule. So he goes in the door in a tree and he's somewhere else now.
But also the hallway spins. It's a 360 hallway. What's going on there? Why did you do that? Whatever. Oh, but yeah, anytime Majora pops up in a different game, I'm so hype. I love Majora.
Yeah. I was so hoping he was going to be in Smash.
Me too. It was him, Shadow, and Waluigi. Those were my dream ones. And I'm like, these are never going to happen. But if they did, I'd cream.
Waluigi should have happened, but that's
I had that was my ultimate dream, was they were gonna reveal Sora or whoever was that character, and then be like, and just for fun, here's one more, and it's Waluigi. That was my dream.
That'll be the next Smash Brothers we get.
Yeah, and it won't be Sakurai, and it'll be awful, and then I'll cry. I'll be like, no.
Oops all a Waluigi. It's just he's every character.
He's like Kirby. He's Waluigi, but he's trash. Same game. Man.
Lucas, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Okay. So that could have gone anywhere.
Exactly. I had to keep you on your toes.
Wonderful options.
The reason I went with that one,
because it's great.
It is great, and I think what's interesting to me about it is I really enjoyed 7 and the kind of new direction that they were going in with the first person, and then with 2 Remake coming out, and I had never played the original 2. I had only played 4 and up.
You should play original 2 also.
And there was something about going back to the third person perspective where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this, like going back to this with how much I enjoyed 7, but holy cow, it's so good. Like visually it looks incredible. And then just the way that it puts the tension on you, like it really leans into that survival aspect in a way that I love in horror games. And being stressed about ammo, the lickers are fucking terrifying. Mr. X is great. I know some people get annoyed with that part of the game, but I think it's super effective, and it really keeps the adrenaline kind of on a constant, not knowing A, whenever he's going to pop up, but also B, whenever you're just going to start hearing his footsteps and realize that he's about to pop up. Like it's so good.
Like be fucking around the room and you can hear his footsteps, and the next
you just hear some
like
doom,
shit.
Well, fuck, there's 3 doors in here. Which one do I want to take my Oh, this was the wrong door. He's right there.
That game terrified the hell out of me when I played it for the show. And both me and Mike cheated and played with an infinite SMG, infinite ammo SMG.
I think I used the infinite knife, but I think I used normal guns. I don't know.
Oh, I thought I could have. I mean, you can go listen to the video of the episode and find out. I don't remember, but I 100% I used the infinite ammo SMG, and that game still terrified me.
It's really good.
Survival horror is so great for that. The second you get
it's a great game.
All the first, at least Silent 2 and Silent 3. I don't remember Silent 1, but Silent 2, Silent 3, it's like, oh, you have a chainsaw, oh, you have an infinite gun, you have this mega pipe. And then it takes away a lot of the scary, but it's still gross and awful in a way. But man, when you don't have those things, you're going through it like, please, God. Oh, I don't want to run out. And then you reach the end, and of course, you have way too much. Like, God damn it. Fuck. But, yeah,
this one in particular is definitely one of those ones where the good graphics work against it in my favor. Like, that cop at the beginning that gets cut in half under the door or whatever, the shutter.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, this is going to be a long game.
It really just sets the tone, like, super well. Like, I don't know why I was expecting it to be more campy, I guess, is what I was expecting. And
it's not
like maybe a little bit of that in there, but like it really takes itself seriously in the fact of like, no, this is a scary game. Like there will be scares. These zombies are going to look disgusting and creepy. Like we're freaking we got the budget. We're going for it. And they hit it out of the park.
Exactly. It was so bold. They basically took like 4 back steps of things that people didn't like. A lot of remakes that were like hit or miss for people. The third person camera movement, which people like got really sick of in 6, and a lot of people didn't like 6. But I had that like, well, you're not stationary shooting, but you're not. But they just did everything so well, and then they did 3 because it did so well. And now we're getting 4 soon, basically confirmed. And it's
already
really
it's been confirmed. More than that.
Yeah, I forgot. We were in an era so long of it hasn't been confirmed, but it is. But yeah, they really knocked it out of the park, and it's such.
They didn't need a remake for.
Oh,
I agree, but I'm looking forward to it.
I'm in both of those camps, 100%.
That's one I would want to play in VR. I think that'd be fun.
I think it would probably fix it for a lot of people.
I think you should play Resident Evil 7 in VR.
No, I don't want to play normal Resident Evil 7.
I play all these in VR, but 4, I still have 4 today. I'm a stan of 4 and 5, where I'm like, I don't care. I like not moving and shooting. I'm weird. I don't know.
I just played 3 Remake for the first time this past week, and it was fantastic. It's much more my speed than 2 was.
I haven't played 3. I'm happy to do that because I played I think at least 1 playthrough of 2, maybe a second one of the different routes, but I never did 3 because I didn't love 2 that much. So that makes me happy with that.
2 is just a really, really horror game for me. Like it's so fucking scary, and we both did not enjoy playing 2.
3 leans more on the action tension aspect of it than survival whatnot.
Okay.
All right, we are at Mike's number 3, I believe.
Yes, we are. My number 3 has already been mentioned and wasn't on this list till I reminded that I forgot it somehow. Alan Wake is my number 3.
Yeah.
I
Real good.
fucking love this game. Played it. We played it for the show 2 years ago or so. I love it. I just looked on Steam to see if I bought it or not. I'm like, oh, I'll go rebuy this at some point once on sale. Then I play it on my Steam Deck, and I just fucking love it. It's such a great game. It's just so much fun to me. It's one of my favorite horror games ever in general. Just one of my favorite games. I just really, really enjoy it. I've always had so much fun with it. It's not that challenging. It's not that scary, but it does a good job of leading you on and keeping you very interested. So that's my number 3 is Alan Wake.
Yeah, I kind of famously don't care too much about stories in games, but that one had me hooked, and like I even bought the novelization when it came out just to read through the story again, basically.
Oh,
is that novelization good?
I remember it being decent. It's been probably since the game came out that I've read it, but
I've been kind of marking down which games we've been talking about because I was kind of curious which one to be. It really sounds like Alan Wake is the one we all share this big love for.
It's real good.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Oh, I'm
Remedy,
so excited for that series.
Remedy makes some good stuff. Quantum Break's not bad, too. My number 3 has also been mentioned twice. This is Eternal Darkness.
Whoa, that's high.
Yeah.
Not surprising for him.
Yeah, I got this one on probably day 1 when it came out. I loved this game. And
How
even
old were you
playing back through it
when
now.
was?
2002, I would have been 19.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I think that game, for when it came out at different ages, would be a very different experience. So I was curious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The only thing that I wanted to touch on that we haven't covered already is you pick up runes throughout the game, and you basically craft your own spells, which is badass. I mean, you craft them from a set list, but...
Such a weird thing that I was experiencing, because I think I got through a good chunk of that game from what I saw later and looked up. And yeah, I kept seeing people be like, it's okay, you can heal. Just, you have to get to like chapter 3 or 4. But man, it was a weird thing to like...
Depending on what you pick.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
It's such a weird thing for them to like keep from you, and then once you get it, it's such a helpful thing. Because again, I didn't have trouble with it. I'd see what someone does. It's like, oh yeah, I can't heal this, or they'll give you an item that lets you heal like twice for a level. But it's also nice to let you save anywhere. That's a really nice mechanic, as long as there's not enemies in the room and in multiple save slots. I think these are all really strong things that game could not have done.
That was another great sanity effect. If you're low enough, you go to save and it'll delete your save or make it look like it's deleting it. Like, fuck you, game.
Good. See, this is why that game, I was like, it's on my list. It's not high, but it's not going to not be on there. This shit's hilarious and great.
You need to play it, finish it.
Well, it's a good one.
Maybe restart it, pick the easier element, and then use a guide, but yeah, it's definitely worth playing.
No, I could just continue it for more of that. And now we're talking about more and more. I'm like, oh, I might go finish it. Because I think I did it in like one sitting. I just kind of kept going through it. And after I stopped, I was like, I don't know if I like that. But I did play a lot of it.
Yeah, 6 hours. This is a good chunk.
It's worth beating just to beat
it. At least halfway through.
Yeah.
So you've got Eternal Darkness, Alan Wake, Bioshock, and Burial at Sea now on your list. So get at it.
Yeah, Bioshock, Darkness, these are some popular ones. And Alan Wake, those are really hitting for us. And Dead Space a little bit.
Yeah. And while you're at it, give us your number 2.
This is you like left field. Here's one. It's called Moirai. This is a game that came out. I remember I looked it up when I was researching it.
How do you spell it?
How I spelt it here, and I'm worried I spelt it wrong. Moirai. Let me see if that's the right spelling.
I didn't think I need to make the stipulation that you can't just make up games, Star.
Hold on. Okay, no, that is spelled right. You do have to put game. So this game is not made up. It came out in 2017, and it was a small little experience game that you can't play anymore. The way it worked is it was this game that's like pixel art, 2D, and it's probably like a 10-minute experience, but it is still a game. You go in, you're talking to these townspeople, and they're like, hey, there's something weird going on in the cave. You go to the caves, and you get there, and there's a guy outside. He's like, hey, there's someone crying in the cave. I sent my brother in. You go talk to him. He's like, oh, there's someone crying deeper in the cave. And it's this very just short, creepy experience because there's like not a lot of atmosphere, but it's not like comical in it. It's just weird. And eventually you go through this cave and you turn this corner and suddenly there's just a dude with a knife covered in blood. And you're like, and you can ask him 3 questions. And it's like, why are you covered in blood? What have you done? And then something else. And so I
thought the 3 questions were, how many zombies have you killed? How many people have you killed? And why? I thought those were the 3 questions, sorry.
But this is the part of why this game's on the list, because again, this whole time we've been talking NPCs, and there's no indication what's going on. But depending on your experience at this point, it is very clear or not clear that this is the answers you are being given are from the last person who played this game. So you might get an answer of someone being very honest and saying, "Oh, there's a girl further down, and she killed herself, and now I'm covered in blood." And then you ask these 3 questions, and you give them your answer, and then you decide whether or not to kill them, let them go, or there's like a third option. And then you do it, and you go into the cave, and then you find the girl, and you have the exact same experience where you can either, she's basically saying like, my husband died here, and now I want to kill myself. And you can either go get help, and then she kills herself, or you can kill her and put her out of her misery because she's asking you to do it. And then you go to leave the cave, and the exact same thing happens. And then you realize, oh, fuck, now I have to make my case to somebody else of what's going on here. And then as soon as you answer the 3 questions with inputable text, the game ends. And then if you want, you can put an email in. Yeah, and you can put an email in that would then get sent to you, and it would tell you what the outcome was of your character. And it's really cool, but the second it was known what was going on, the person deleted it and shut the server down. They made it not playable. Because, that was the whole thing, was you didn't know, and then until after the end, you're like, oh, shit. So that person I talked to, it was funny, I watched a YouTube video of it because it had been so long, but I knew this game and I loved it. And I was like, what happens? And I was watching the person like, I'm Macho Man Randy Savage, just all caps lock. And I'm like, okay, so you could have got a person who was answering just the most obvious, like, this isn't it. If this is an NPC, the creator did something real weird here. And you just say, fuck, shit, bloody ass. You're like, oh, what? But yeah, it's such a weird, random experience that was a neat little thing. And I love it so much. And it's pretty prominent on other parts of my list as we were talking. But yeah,
it's pretty high up. One of the first results when I search for it is a Markiplier video. So I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
That's what I was watching a little bit of.
It was just so not, like, it was just for what it was. I loved it, and I thought it was so neat, and it's something that could never be done again. And it's so, the atmosphere to me was creepy when I was playing back then, because I did experience it genuinely. It was wigged me out because people were like, don't look anything up, just play it. And I was like, what is going on? It's giving me the willies, and then you're getting in this creepy cave system, and it's like this low art horror, or like low art. And I'm like, oh, it's making me uncomfortable. And then you just boom, bloody dude. And you're like, what's going on? Why are you bloody? And it's like, are you going to kill me? And I'm like, oh, jeez. Oh, it's Scoob. So, yeah, I loved it. But it's also not playable. And so it's like, hey, I want to bring this up and show it off. Because it's such a neat thing.
It's weird that they just ended it. And
yeah, the person who made it was really interesting. It was like this weird experiment sort of deal where it's like, hey, what do you do if you just think it's a silly NPC? And then you learn, like, oh, no, that was a person. I murdered him. Because you could apparently also murder the cows or something. Something I never learned until I was researching it for this. I was like, oh, shit. People apparently just like to murder the cows. It's weird. I don't know why you would, but yeah.
I always wonder what happened to Macho Man.
I recently watched a Macho Man video where he talked about the importance of expressing your feelings. I love Macho Man.
With a knife.
This is also where I would have put Resident Evil 7 if I was putting Resident Evil, because, 7 was so good. Knocked it out of the park. Anyway.
Lucas, number 2.
My number 2 is Dead Space 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the correct choice.
It is the correct choice, and I'll tell you why.
Oh.
There is an enemy type in this game I guess we'll do some backup. Dead Space 2 definitely expands on the first one in the fact that, like, you're definitely in a much bigger setting. There's remnants of, like, what used to be a city there. You really get into the weeds of, explaining the first game and why these alien creatures are attacking you. What's up with that marker thing? Is there a weird cult? Like, all these questions start to get unraveled a little bit more. And since it was a kind of more of a civilization setting, there's this area that you enter that used to be a daycare. And there are these horrifying, fucking creepy baby enemies. And they are so disturbing. It's one of probably my number 2 pick also for, like, scariest enemy design. Like, they are really terrifying. But outside of that, like, just in general, I think the game is a lot better paced and the scares are a lot better. It doesn't rely on the jump scares as much. And then towards the latter half of the game, it does this great moment of bringing you back to the Ishimura. And, it's been docked and there's kind of tarps and stuff over it, and it's this really unsettling moment of, like, oh, great. All the fun times we had a couple of years ago when playing that. As if everything that's preceded wasn't already enough and terrifying. Like, why the fuck not? Like, let's go back home and it be just slightly more off-putting somehow. It's really good. It's a fantastic game, and I hope that this Dead Space remake does well, because I absolutely need them to remake 2.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I love the ending in that, because the ending of 1 where he looks over and there's that Phantom Nicole there, and then in 2 he's in the ship and he looks over and the female lead's there. She's just like, what? good little moment.
Yeah, it is a little unsettling of her being like, are you okay, bud?
And I was looking him up because I vaguely remember the introduction scene to the crawlers really like upsettingly gross and sad, because it's a woman in a daycare setting, like, you know, in this horror environment, calling to this like child that seems to be like still a baby, and she like hugs him and holds him, and then he fucking explodes. Gross.
They are the creepiest, and they cry like babies and scream like it is. Ooh, they are creepy.
Doesn't Silent Hill 1 have little baby-like enemies?
100% about to talk about. I was going to ask if you'd experienced those things. They aren't babies. They're like small children, because it's when you go to the schoolhouse.
And they have knives?
Yeah, and they're really like... They
so weird.
Sounds, and they fuck you up, and there's like 3 of them, and they're just chopping your ankles, and they do a lot of damage. Like, they're really like scary. What's funny is they're very human-like. Like, I think a lot of the enemies in 1 and 2, I just saw a meme, and it was like, 3, Heather's like, was I killing people? 2, James is like, I murdered a person. And 1 is Dad saying, baby, go bonk. And he's just swinging a sledgehammer at these huge people with no thought. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair. He don't give a shit. He's like, I'm here for my daughter. Fuck these weird little bastards.
That's funny shit.
But yeah, they're also real creepy, and they remind me of that in a really like good way. Completely different. One's a baby, and they're like kids, but they're like these creepy enemies.
That reminds me of the scene, Mike, from Resident Evil Apocalypse with the zombie children that eat the reporter lady. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
God, I hate those.
Good scene, but whew.
Yeah. Mike, number 2.
My number 2 is a Resident Evil game, because I wasn't following your ideas that were only for you. Resident Evil 4, because that is the best.
Hell yes. Mike,
I love that fucking game. I have loved that game since the first time I played the demo that I got when I reserved it. The only thing I still regret, I don't have a lot of regrets in my life. One of my biggest regrets is I had the cardboard cutout for Resident Evil 4.
Oh.
And I left it at my parents' house, and then they put it in the basement, and it got wet. I think it got pissed on by cats. I don't know what the hell happened to it, but when I came back, like, well, you can have it, and it was just ruined. I'm like, just throw it out at this point. But I regret it, because it took me years. I wouldn't have been able to I didn't get a house till I bought a house 2 years, 2020, and that game came out in 2005. So yeah, it didn't make it the 15 years before I could actually have put it in my house and been like, look at that. No, I mean, I love RE4. I played it again for the show. I just never get tired of that game. It is the best. And I will probably play it again at some point, I'm sure.
Those cats must have been fans of the first 3 games. They didn't like how much changed in 4.
No, they did not. I don't know if I don't know what happened. All I know is it was ruined, and I cried. But I'll never forget the one and only Halloween I was there with my girlfriend at the time. We were at my parents' house where we were living for a little bit. We put it in the doorway for the trick-or-treaters. When you open the door, you just see El Gigante just staring at you, and somebody screamed.
That's awesome.
Well, that was great.
With this remake coming out, based off of what we've seen so far, it definitely seems like it's following kind of the RE2 footsteps of amping up some of the horror elements. Mm-hmm. Are you going to revisit it, do you think? Or are you going to play the remake? Or does that kind of turn you off from it?
It has me. I'm interested, but I don't get around anything for years.
It depends on if it's playable on Steam Deck or not.
My favorite parts of 4 are parts that a lot of people rather be changed, especially in a modern game. Like, I love the inventory system. Love, like, there's just so many parts about it that I think were great and make me go, why do we need a 4th remake? And they're going to be so different. And also, like, I think a lot of the environment changes, like, from Resident Evil 2 remake, Resident Evil 3 remake compared to the original, are so wildly larger and different.
We didn't need a remake of 4. We needed a remake of Code Veronica, not 4.
Yeah, I would agree. I like the linearness of 4, and I don't think it's going to have that, or it's going to feel less linear even if it is, which is wild, because I think that's something that really makes Resident Evil 4 this more like adventure experience rather than like, you know, moving around the mansion back and forth. It's like, oh, I'm continually moving forward into weirder shit. Also, I think the length of the game is fine. Fuck anyone who says that it was too long. I think it's wrong. Yeah,
it's not as long as 5 or 6, so
no, it's long enough.
Oh god, 6
I need to play
21
6.
hours. Good God.
I literally played one story of 6, and that was it. I think I started the other ones, but I just never cared enough.
I played 2 missions of one story of 6, and I was done.
If I could go back, I would play Leon. I played the Chris storyline. God.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Leon's the one I started.
Oh, God.
I'm excited for that remake because I think kind of similar to how I felt with RE2 is like I think the updated visuals are really going to help the more horror aspects of 4 stand out because I feel like everybody remembers it for some of its goofiness of, you know, your bingo lines or your crazy castle with
that better be
a freaking roller coaster and all this stuff.
No, it won't. And that's
you got smokes? I got gum.
Like, there's some genuinely creepy moments in 4 between, like, those scary blind
reanimators.
Enemies.
Yeah,
like, they're creepy. And then the Salazar boss fight, whenever he, like, loses his lower half and starts, like, swinging from the rafters with his spine hanging out, like, give me that at its full potential of, like, how you guys visualize this, because I know that you can pull it off now, and I think it's going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah, the GameCube wasn't really known for its graphics back then.
Also, I have a funny joke that I can now say. Earlier when I was at Walmart a couple days ago, I texted Mike this. Somebody just said, what are they in here? The big cheese? And for some reason, the first thing that popped in my head was Chief Mendez from this game. And I'm like, that should not be what pops in my head when someone says the big cheese.
I 100% was about to say the opposite. I can't think of anything else that would pop in my head if someone said big cheese. I would be like, the big cheese. It's the delivery. He doesn't say like big cheese. It's like the big cheese. It's such a great line. And Luis is so great. I love him. God, I love that game.
I did a quick Google search and found that character with one of those like Minnesota cheese hat.
Wisconsin cheese head, sir. Wisconsin.
One of those in my house. I think the campiness...
You insulted the Viking fans in Minnesota.
Well.
I think the campiness is such a strong element in that game, and there's no way it's going to be present in the new one. Also, some of the problematic parts of that, like the character with dwarfism, I don't like. That would not fly today, so I don't know what they're going to do for him. That's going to be weird. Like, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting what they change and why. And or
the insinuated rape scene that you have in that game, too, near the end.
What? Oh,
there's an insinuated rape scene where they turn off the cameras when Ashley's in the island.
They cut out, I think the most recent version, they cut out Luis's line about her ballistics.
Yep. They did do that. You're right. They modified the VR version for a few things. One, I thought that was a me thing who thought that. Mike, you make me feel weird now. I thought, I don't like that. That's weird. I thought I was like, that feels a little weird.
No, they don't ever touch on it, but I swear that's what it's an insinuating rape scene because they look at the camera, they turn it off, and then when you find her, they're not there, and she's like Howard in the corner, which both fit, but I don't like it.
I don't think it's meant to be. I think it's maybe just too close to what those scenes often are implied to, because all the zombies there, I guess they are human, but they're pretty savage, especially the ones at the end. They're pretty, like, just mindless, like, drones at that point. I'd rather not believe.
They're not dead zombies like what you're talking, like when regular Resident Evil. They're just people that are infected with a parasite that's also being controlled by a guy.
Did they not spend any time with this girl at all? She's obnoxious.
God, hell. The delivery of that story of what happened is so sad and such a weird we're gonna put in the credits. It's so powerful with the music, like how they're like, hey, it's really sad what happened to these fucking people, and you're like, God, fuck, it is sad. Damn. Thanks, I guess.
The whole fact that the whole game is because he goes into some guy's house, they pull a weapon on him, so he shoots him. He's like, the locals try to kill me. I was, in his house and pull a gun on him, but I don't understand.
You talking earlier about Resident Evil Revelations, just introducing characters. There's a freaking knife fight in that game that just comes out of nowhere.
Oh, Krauser.
I'm just supposed to know why we're having this epic knife fight and how it fits into the story. It is the most absurd thing
because he's an American.
Resident Evil has ever. I refuse to hear that anything else is more absurd. I don't want to talk about punching boulders like you just have a random knife fight with this guy.
No, hold on. I disagree. The punching boulders are ridiculous. They at least give you the plot eventually. It's very abrasive of an introduction, but they go into it.
I get it, though.
The first time I got in that knife fight, I remember I put the controller down because I was eating chicken, and then I died.
Man, fuck those QTEs.
It's such a core memory, though.
It was a thing. Yeah, it is.
Krauser's wild. That's for sure. Also, Ada's really cool in that the fact that that's when they brought Ada back compared to...
Ada's always cool.
Yeah. It's such like, I don't know. I think Leon and Ada, their characters in Resident Evil, I think that's what 4 was really cool about. Is it was like, hey, you know these characters you really like? We're bringing them back, and they've been through some shit, and now they're different. And Wesker, too, you know?
Claire's in Code Veronica that no one wants to play.
You're right.
That's why I need to remake. Claire's also in Revelations, too.
Yep, there's that.
And Claire's in the animated movies, too, that you haven't seen.
I saw the first one.
There's 2 more.
All right, let's move on. My number 2, Mike, are you ready for this?
Avenging Spirit.
My number, this almost made my honorable mentions, but didn't. My number 2 is Candy Please.
Why?
Because I play this game every Halloween still. This is an adventure game in the Quiet Please series, which is just a series of little adventure games. One guy makes them. They're very low pixel, whatever art style.
I'm sorry.
But
these were introduced in Xbox Live indie game.
Exactly.
Yes,
Nope, it's instantly bad.
Oh, whatever.
That was great.
We did Turkey Please for Thanksgiving that we released on Thanksgiving Day at one point, but that's it.
Star, I will raise you. Super amazing wagon adventure. Look that up. You'll not be disappointed.
Okay. Keep
Okay.
with whatever this shit is.
But this one is the girl that you always play as in these games. She and her younger brother are trying to go around the house and piece together different costumes to fleece their neighbors out of more candy than they would normally get. Apparently, if you put on a different costume, no one knows that you're the different person or the same person. Clark Kent syndrome. But yeah, it's like a half-hour runtime if you really know what you're doing. I will put this on every Halloween for the foreseeable future. I love this.
And what's
game.
it called again?
Candy Please?
Candy Please. Okay.
I can't with you a little bit right now. You need to explain yourself because what you've told me through this entire time is that you pick games that may not necessarily be horror games but are good. Yeah. I cannot believe you that this is your number 2. This is ridiculous.
It's number 2 because I play it every year.
It's odd.
Is it good?
It's an adventure game. I think so. It's a bite-sized adventure game. If you like adventure games, like point and click stuff.
Fair. I don't really like these style of adventure games.
I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna check it out.
Go for it. They're all on Steam.
You still play it? Okay, I was about to ask.
There are 5 of them. Quiet, Candy, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
There's a summer one and
vacation.
the Christmas one.
So 5.
So you just go around, you do some like little bits, you put on costumes, you carve.
Yeah, and there's also it's a little adventure game. You just have to solve puzzles essentially and figure out what you have to do.
Yeah, Mike loved Turkey Please. Like he couldn't shut up about it.
You can listen to it. I don't remember anything I said because it was years ago.
No, that was 2 years ago.
What was the other Indie Live arcade game you said?
Super Amazing Wagon Adventure. I'm looking it up right now.
It is a roguelike, so Mike won't like it.
Oh, now you have me a little more attracted. Markiplier played it. Can't be too bad.
Yeah,
Markiplier plays like everything I'm noticing.
I know that's why I said that's a joke.
I've never watched his videos because I don't care for Twitch streamers like that. I see someone that big, it just doesn't interest me at all.
Yeah.
You just made people very upset with that comment. I'm just letting you know.
I'm just not interested in any of those like
online personality content creators. That'd be more. Markiplier.
I mean, I am a
influencers.
Yeah, influencers. Yeah, but yeah, Twitch streamer. That's it's such a just funny generic term used. Like,
I'm a reviewer. Yes, I'm a podcast reviewer, but I don't know. Yeah,
it's a different term. This
everyone has a podcast anymore. Mike, Michael Rosenbaum, and Tom Welling are going through the Smallville episodes.
I'm glad
we know if they finish.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Michael. You're ridiculous. I think I'm ready to move on. I can't.
All right.
Wait, one last question. Have you reviewed this game outside of this, or ever talked about it? This one?
Not this one. No,
we talked about it, but we didn't review it. No.
Yeah, I talk about it. I tried to get him to do the last.
I would do a small
ever since I
with
joined.
You. I would do a mini episode just because it's ridiculous.
Hell yeah!
And I hate it so much. I don't want to know why it's your number.
Next Spooktober, Mike, we're doing a Candy Please mini. It's gonna happen.
Silence.
We'll totally not forget this by then.
Yep.
I totally won't remind you if you forget.
All right. Before we get to our honorable mentions, I wanted to plug the Discord real quick because just today I posted that we were doing this top 10. I asked if anyone had any kind of out there picks that they kind of thought we might not touch on that we could go through real quick. Blake mentioned PT, which we covered, and Doki Doki Literature Club, which we also covered.
Hi, Blake. I love your profile picture. That was my Xbox gamer profile picture for you.
Oh, it's a good one. The kid with the beanie blowing the bubble. Love it.
I'm glad that person was the name. I picked up both their games and we shared that in common. It's funny to me.
Rich mentioned Shivers, which I've never heard of. You guys know this one?
No, when I Googled it just now, I got the Ed Sheeran song.
Oh, it's
Yeah, I do
probably
not know
not
this
that.
one.
Oh, I recognize
Point and click.
Yeah, I recognize it. I think I tried to get it. I had a friend once try to get me to play it because it's very weird. It's like, yeah, it does some weird stuff.
Yeah,
Ed Sheeran has a point and click game? Okay, I'm sorry.
Originally released on the CD-ROM.
Oh,
Yeah, 1995.
that newfangled thing? That's never going to catch on.
horror theme, dead bodies, and depictions of killing, hanging, decapitation.
Rich,
Yeah.
what do we need to talk? Do you need help?
He likes point and click horror games or point and click games for sure.
He also
Uh,
mentioned Outlast, which
Uh-huh.
fair, not something none of us mentioned, but
Yeah.
it's not yet. But I think it's a very solid choice. I get why.
Yeah,
Right.
and Alien Isolation, which we covered.
Yes.
Friend of the show, Ken Sanity, mentions Clock Tower, which, yeah. I mean, he mentions the PS1, the Super Nintendo one's fine. Nightmare
Yeah.
Creatures, man, that game is something else. Sorry, what was that?
Oh, they've made yeah, I've seen a lot of them. I like the PS1 one a lot. It's not something I've experienced directly, but I think Clock Tower's real weird.
Yeah.
I've never played. I just played the Super Nintendo version, which actually wasn't even supposed to be on the show. It was supposed to be the PS1 version, but I just put the SNES one version on it.
Fucking Alien Isolation can't even do anything original. They ripped off Clock Tower with the thing following you everywhere.
There you go. God,
Disagree.
lazy writers.
Kenneth also mentions Nightmare Creatures. Do you guys know this game? It
Not at
yes.
all.
you
I
constantly have your health ticking down.
I
Which is a-
recognize the Nintendo 64 box art for some
Yep.
reason, but that's it. Nothing else.
I remember it
Creepy.
back
It's-
then, but I never played it. My friend had it, but I wasn't interested. I just know it's a horror game of you kill. I don't even know much about it. You kill monsters. Just try it.
Are they
That's real.
Nightmare Creatures?
They're really creepy.
Yes, there's a Kinect game too in the series. I know that.
God,
What?
Weird.
I have it.
that's
somewhere.
That must be
Like-
extra scary because
You
can't
gotta
play it.
play that at some point.
You can't. Yeah, you can't control it. Yeah, the monsters are really creepy. They're gonna be like Silent Hill vibes. Early Silent Hill for sure.
Yeah, never played it though. Never will.
Kenneth also mentions Siren. I know my wife's not big on that one.
Ugh.
Yeah, she got an I don't know if that picked up.
They did.
Damn.
I love it.
The Fatal Frame franchise and former episode Sweet Home.
I forgot we did that game.
Precursor to Resident Evil.
It's not good.
I think all solid. I've seen and looked some of them up when I was trying to pick out what games to play, and I thought about all those for a little bit. So
All right. Star, hit us with your honorable mentions.
I've mentioned it a lot of times on the show, and I love it. It's Outer Wilds. You should play it right
Hey.
now. Go
That's
play it.
a good choice.
I
I didn't think
How is
about
that a
that.
horror game?
so
Or I can't ask that question, can I?
no, you can. I'm totally down because I
Okay.
thought about it for a while. It was something I thought about, and I kept popping in my mind. One is the stress of time is I have time anxiety. So for me, Majora's Mask and Outer Wilds are great fun things because I get to redo it, but it's also stressful. Outer Wilds definitely has some areas and the absence of like bodies that are really creepy. There's very few times where like you get to interact with somebody. When you do, it's very nice, but then you're just alone a lot, and you're
Mhm.
trying to piece together what the hell's going on. What happened to these people? There is also the DLC, which is very spooky, and I like that, but I don't know, that was very jump scary, but they literally have a setting to turn down how scary the DLC is because it's so much. But to me, it's just there's a lot. And also the anglerfish. Those things I hate those things.
Yeah.
They give me the willies floating.
Those things are scary and everything.
Yeah, the last area, that was the first. I died. So you can die in that game only a few times, which is before the whole shtick starts. And one of them is in the last run after you figure out how to beat the game. After you start the end game, if you die, you do it. And to beat the game, you have to go through like this area that's 6 of these fish that if you move too fast, they murder you. So it was terrifying and stressful to be like, go too
Okay.
fast. Don't go too fast. But yeah, I think it's one of the best games ever. Probably also top 3, but I also think as the parts that are scary are really scary, and even the parts that aren't, I think are creepy. I don't like the stress of time, and a lot of the areas. Like, they also have like what's the one? People are really afraid of like big scary things under the ocean. That phobia, totally in this game. You can go
Okay.
live that.
I know
thing
Blake
out.
mentioned I should play it on this show too.
I think they do a good job of making it intimidating, like in a way that it would be if you were actually in space. Like the idea of going into like the first few worlds around you are fairly standard in Outer Wilds as far as like, you know, an underground city or stuff like that, like fairly inviting for you to start your journey. But whenever you get to some of the later planets, like you know that there is kind of this not scary, but you know what I mean, like unsettling vibe to the universe at the moment.
And I think once you get to
something that can easily happen to you based off of your previous experiences. So like whenever you go to like the planet that is fully water and you kind of misjudge your landing and all of a sudden you're underwater, it's like, I don't want to fucking be underwater right now. Like I know that stuff just will sometimes present itself in this game and me not expect it. Like this is not where I want to be right now.
I think once the fear of death for a reason is gone, it removes a lot of it, but there's still these feelings of like, there's a planet where if you get sucked through this black hole and it's just like at the center, it's suddenly terrifying that you're in the middle of space. You only have a limited amount of air and fuel to like propel yourself, and you're like, oh shit, my ship is not here. What the fuck am I gonna do? And there's that initial feeling of like, oh fuck, I'm gonna die. And you're like, oh wait, it's fine. But it's still scary, like, because I don't know, the thought of being in space, it spooks me out. So like when stupid stuff happens and it goes wrong, your ship blows up or something, and you're like, ah, damn it. And there's that moment. There's like, oh no, I'm okay. It'll be fine.
Also, the moving objects, which becomes like more and more prevalent in the game as it goes on. But like sometimes you'll be staring at something and then you look away and like you turn back and then there's something new there, or it's gone, or this new pathway has opened up, and it's scary in a cave and it's scary in a forest. Like it, like there's something about things just disappearing that is unsettling.
Yeah. That's what I was about to mention. It's like 3/4 of the way through that main sort of plot, you reach a lot of that happening, and there's a lot going on with that makes a lot more sense, and you learn about it. But at first, it's kind of a lot, and you're going through like this sort of like almost like a journey, like a brain journey of like, what am I doing? This doesn't make any sense. And then it does, and they explain how it's happening. For a while, you're just like, what is going on? And that game does that a lot. I think it's really interesting how it does it. The storytelling is just great. I love it.
Okay.
Play it, Mike. Play it right now.
Actually, don't own it yet. It hasn't been on a deep enough sale for me.
Ah!
Was that all you had?
Yep, I love it. I'll plug it. That and Dead Rising. Yeah, I'll talk about them until I'm on my deathbed. I love them so much.
All right. Lucas, honorable mentions.
All right. I'm going to rapid fire through these. Bloodborne was on mine. We talked about it. Great game. Spooky. Doki Doki was also on there, as well as PT. I want to shout out Luigi's Mansion 3.
Yeah.
Not Luigi's Mansion.
I would say you could take any of them. I liked 3, and it's the one I played most recently, but something about like a more inviting experience whenever it comes to like horror, or like a more kid-focused or family-focused horror is not something that I think is done a lot in games.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's my wheelhouse.
And they nail it. Like it's done super well. Like a great Halloween game.
Summarized perfectly why I wanted to put on my list but forgot, and I'm really upset. So thank you. Oh, it's so
Oxenfree is also one I want to shout out. That's not super scary, but again, kind of falls in that like unsettling kind of space of you're not really sure what's going on, some supernatural elements and stuff like that. And it's just like a very, very more unsettling kind of vibe that I think it does really well. And then lastly, Lost in Vivo, which is a indie game on PC. If you like Eternal Darkness, I would recommend that you check it out. It does a lot with, or I guess to set it up, you are walking your dog down a street and your dog falls into the sewer and you go to get it back. And it's in first person, kind of older looking graphics, like it's definitely super polished or anything like that. But so much of its scares are psychological and playing with perception. And it does a lot of those fourth wall breaks that Eternal Darkness does with messing with your save files and stuff like that, or changing up menus and objects and pathways. And it's a short experience. And I think it's like maybe $2 on Steam, probably. You should play it.
What's it called?
Lost in Vivo.
God, I Google it and it's horrifying to look at. And
I immediately regretted it.
Yeah, I love it. It looks right up my alley. Psychological horror. I told
nightmares.
Before you say yours, can I just mention my honorable mentions? We don't have to talk about them.
Oh yeah.
Until Dawn. I think that one's obvious and really. I'm surprised no one else mentioned it.
Was that your? Did you just give your number one?
Yes.
Is that oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, this is honorable mentions.
Yeah, no, I gave my number 1. That's why. Yeah,
Oh.
I realize now. Yeah, that was my number 1. My honorable mentions outside of that, Until Dawn, Frostpunk, again, more of that time stuff and really scary, dealing with freezing to death, gives me the willies. Alan Wake, of course, Bloodborne, Luigi's Mansion, even though it should be in my 10. And then, yeah, those are definitely my honorable mentions for sure.
Okay.
All right. Lucas, do you have any more?
Nope, that's all I got. I've said
All
my
right.
piece.
Okay, I'll do mine. Mine are Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 1 Remake, Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl, just because I thought of it, Resident Evil Revelations. I really like that game. Resident Evil 3 and Silent Hill 3, because that is the best Silent Hill game. That and Origins are both really good.
Origins, that's a fun take. I'm happy to hear that. I like Origins.
I like Origins a lot. We played it for the show a while ago, and I really had a good time with it.
I think it does a lot of stuff really interesting. There's some stuff mechanically I don't like, besides that. But Stalker's also a really good one. I'm glad you mentioned, because I think that game's...
It's a creepy ass game that I played 2 of them for the show, and will probably never played a 3rd one. So
yeah, Stalker's a really, I think, series that should have more prominence and love than it does. Even though I personally never played it, but I have a lot of respect. So
and that's all I got. What about you, Mike?
I'm surprised no one had a Castlevania anywhere on here. I guess we're not done yet, but it's just... It was one of those ones I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do a Silent Hill, which I would have done in Shattered Memories. I'm not doing Resident Evil, probably would have been 1 remake or 0. And I'm not going to do a Castlevania, Symphony of the Night or Portrait of Run. But my honorable mentions are, I have to do Alone in the Dark 2008 because it's such a Games My Mom Found meme at this point, because we talk about it all the time. My wife still loves this story that when I finished that game, I put it in the case and chucked it across the room. The game is horrible, but I have to mention it because it's so dumb. I shit you not, Fester's Quest is an honorable mention. I got weirdly obsessed with that game over the summer, and I can beat it now. So, yeah, we did an episode on that. Go back and check that out. Mike loved it. Haunt the House is a cute little game where you play as a ghost. It's kind of like Haunting, where you're trying to scare people away, but it's a much cuter take on it.
Okay.
I also had Oxenfree.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we would be super remiss not to mention Overblood.
It's a terrible game.
Yes, it is, but I mean, none of us would be here if it wasn't for that community.
Yes, that is correct. All of us are Overbloodies, and the podcast wouldn't exist wasn't for that community. And I covered that game, which actually led me to meeting somebody who runs the Overblood 2 website. So, hey.
Excellent.
I just don't know if that game... I mean, I don't know. I guess I haven't seen all of it, but I kind of didn't think it was that spooky.
It's not. It's just bad.
What are you saying? You have not watched the entire Overblood Super replay?
All right, so moving on. Mine was number 1. I already said it. It was Outer Wilds. And yeah, all the reasons I said. Yeah, so cut that. Whatever. Outer Wilds is great.
I'm not cutting it. So.
All right,
well, it's messy. Well,
I got one last thing to touch on. I always have to do a wife pick, and she picked the first Fatal Frame because I told her no Silent Hill, or else she would have picked 1 or 3. She said it's got a good story in her opinion, controls are really well for the time, and it's genuinely scary. Her only complaint is that you can get to a point of not being able to finish the game because you don't have enough ammo and stuff, which is, survival horror garbage.
Yeah.
That was another game series I definitely was thinking about playing one of before.
Oh, that's one of the game series that I will probably never play.
You shouldn't. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Lucas, number 1.
Oh, Silent Hill 2. It really couldn't be anything else in my mind ever, I don't think.
God, it was such a hard pick for me. I was like, it's either 7 or 2. I love
I could only enjoy that game if you erase my memory and I replay it.
I mix it up. Silent Hill 2 is the one I picked for.
I get it. It's a great game, but we played it for the show. I think I was in a bad mental place too, but I fucking hated that game the second time I played through for the show.
Really?
Yeah.
One, it was a bad mental place, I think, for me too, because it was right after my other 2 co-hosts ended up having to leave the show, and I wasn't. And plus, I didn't like the fact that I knew where the story's going, so I had issues with it here. But
yeah, it's still a great episode. It was one of the first ones I did, and we had Adam and Helena on there, and that was a really good discussion we had about it.
Yes,
and that's totally fair. There's just something about it for me that it hits the notes that I want it to whenever it comes to like setting up a mood. And that mood being something that is leaning towards horror or unsettling or dread or like whatever you want to use, but it's just so good with its atmosphere. And I really like the places that the story goes. I think the creature designs are freaking gross.
They are.
Not crazy about the puzzles, but like I'm willing to overlook it just because it's so good. And that soundtrack is fucking amazing.
Oh, Akira Yamaoka does a soundtrack for the Cyberpunk show, and it fucking is amazing. And Akira Yamaoka is so good. Yeah, I mean, she did the music, I think, for like the first 3 or 4 games.
No, it's a great game. I had a bad experience last time, but it's a great game.
It's really serendipitous. I follow this Twitter account that posts Video Game Girl of the Day, and today was Maria from Silent Hill 2, and I'm just like, no thanks. I'm good.
Something that because I'm in Silent Hill Facebook groups, that's not super well known, is the main writer and director for Silent Hill 2. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. He has a Twitter, and people love to tweet at him about Silent Hill 2 and ask questions, being like, what is the meaning of this? And he mostly speaks Japanese, so he very rarely responds, but usually whenever he does, it's like, you're reading too much into this. Shut up. And I love it. Because it's so great that, for what this game is, there's so much symbolism and what's going on in like the story of it. But man, I love that even the original creator is like, stop. It's fine. Yeah, his wife is in the car in the start of the game. Jesus. All right. What do you want from me? Get out of here. Like, there's all these little things that are like not on the surface, but then there's like all the endings. Oh, it's so good. I love Silent Hill 2.
Got the dog ending.
Yeah.
Mike,
The
tell
endings
us about
are great. Sorry.
Yeah,
we can move on from Silent Hill 2. It's fine.
Yeah,
but
Mike's going to tell us about Until Dawn.
Ashley, what do you think? Realistically, what do you think my number one is? Mike,
Until Dawn's the only horror game that you played for the show that you haven't talked about yet.
Oh, that's sad.
This game happened to involve going to an opera and watching everybody burst in flames.
Fuck yeah.
Parasite Eve.
Oh, yep.
I love Parasite Eve. Creeped the hell out of teenage Mike and had him terrified. I love the game. We played it for the show, the early 20s episodes. It's one of the games I love. I wish the series was better because 2 I hated. Third Birthday was fine. But there's something about 1, the atmosphere, the gameplay, the RPG elements, and it's made by my favorite company ever, Squaresoft. That unfortunately went out of business. Doesn't exist anymore. But they were my Squaresoft don't exist anymore, that's for sure. So, but they were something else, and I love that game so much. I love Aya Brea. She's a great character. The modern day, setting for an RPG, like it's a great game, and it is by far one of my favorite horror game, easily.
I played 2 first.
2's bad.
I'm pretty sure I beat it, but
I also played 2 wrong.
I was a teenager when 2 was coming out, and man, did that marketing work on me, so I bought 2.
I'm not surprised one bit.
I didn't play 1 until probably 2015, and man, it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Completely different games than 1 and 2. Third Birthday are all completely different games.
Yep. They have no idea what they're doing.
She was taking a shower.
Of course.
Oh, yeah, and all the advertising's like her half naked and stuff. It worked.
It's for the time. So
Sex sells.
I'm curious because Michael, you pointed out to Mike. Mike, you didn't even mention.
Where's Until Dawn?
Yeah, it's not even.
I didn't even think about it. Well, that was too new. I just played it. But
Until Dawn is good.
I have the same experience.
If we want to talk about it, I mean,
man, I don't play horror games, and I'm like, I'm going to do this for Halloween. What, years ago now? And I was a freaking nervous wreck. I was up to the bathroom like every 20 minutes. My body did not like me putting it through that shit.
It's a great game, though.
It's good for what it is.
I made a choice, and I thought the outcome was stupid. I was like, really? You're going to kill me for that? Okay, whatever. Fine.
Did you lose the cheerleader because you moved during the last Don't Move section like Mike and I both did?
I might have. Yeah, I remember the mechanics of that were finicky, and I didn't like it for the time.
The trick is to put down the controller before it happened.
Yeah, well, I tried to do it like as it happened.
You can't, because the way it works is as soon as it starts, that controller must stay in that shape. If you're holding it above your head, like high in the air, it got to stay there. It's wherever it is when that moment starts. That's the problem.
Cool idea, but I haven't played the core yet. I'm sure I'll put myself.
The core is also good. Like I'll give props to them. I think those games are good at what they do.
We talked about it too, I think, in our episode.
I think the fact that they made those sequels and they're like, oh, they're also multiplayer. That's how I really want to try them because they sound wild to play with multiple people. I'm like,
that's what Man of Medine is multiplayer, and that's what Blake was telling me you should play it.
It's such a good call. They are so much fun to play with, like a group, and just being able to laugh at some of the, like, similar to watching a B horror movie, like just kind of laughing at the ridiculousness of the situation or how a particular character's acting, but then still having just enough leeway to kind of push things in different directions. They're fun games.
I think the B horror comment's really important because I am remembering the writing in Until Dawn before things get spooky. Fuck, I hated it. I was like, I don't like any of you, and you were very mean to this one guy, and his response is way unproportional. But God, you all suck. And then they're like, okay, but now cryptid. And I'm like, all right, fine, I can live now with this.
Yeah, but if you don't give him the flare gun, then he dies. So
That was one of them.
Or if you give him the flare, no, actually, if you give him the flare gun, he
And
still
don't
dies.
drop
You
him or
have to pick a
something.
certain spot
Yeah.
earlier where you tell him you don't want to go to the tower. You argue with her, and then if you do that,
Yeah.
then when she gives him the flare gun, he won't shoot it off. If you
Yeah,
don't,
this-
he's dead.
this is the antithesis of what Star's been saying, where if you go into a game and you already know what's going on, but this one, if you don't know, then you're going to lose people just because.
And then
Yes.
it's like, oh, you better be finding the totems to get the secret hints to know what to do. And even then, sometimes you're like, oh, I remember what that totem said. And it's like, okay, but what next? And I'm like, I don't know. The totem only gave me this one. Damn it.
Even then, it's not clear. And like, is this what I'm supposed to do?
It is strange to me that people get attached to the characters in those games
Yeah.
in a genre that is pretty much inherently based on the fact that like you're going to get a body count
Yeah.
as you're going through.
Because
There
they're
are a bunch of
actors and
unlikable
actresses.
stereotypes too. So
Yeah, exactly.
because it's supposed to be a slasher.
But like I get that. Like I feel the same way though whenever I play like if I lose somebody early, and that's one nice thing about the Quarry 2, they have like a solid rewind feature for
Oh yeah.
chapters and stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, like there's just that feeling of like, well, I fucked up. Like I feel like I'm gonna miss 25% of the game or something like that.
Yeah.
Where I guess maybe it's not as attached in a film or a book.
Yeah, 100%. So in short, don't play Until Dawn. Go play the Quarry. Even though the
Play
three of us haven't played it.
You can play both. They're both good.
You can play neither.
And Mike,
Do whatever you want.
Yeah, my number one. I wish it was more ceremonious, but my number one's Diablo 3, just because I've put
that's not a horror game.
what you fight zombies and you fight skeletons. Shut up. It's my
I
list.
respect it. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, mine's Outer Wilds. It's a good game. Is it horror?
Yeah.
Is Diablo 3 horror? I think 2 is more horror than 3 based off my limited knowledge.
Yeah, well, yeah, 3 is very colorful, but whatever, I'm counting it. I put hundreds and hundreds of hours into all 3 versions of this stupid game, and I'll keep playing it over and over again.
So if there's a top 10 of any positive game, are you just putting Diablo 3 at the top? I haven't heard them all, but I'm just wondering.
I try not to use the same thing twice. Like, I could have put any of the Nonary games in here, the Zero Escape games, but I used that for our top 10 handheld games. Also, Ghost Trick, which is a fantastic game. So I try not to reuse things. Like when we do top 10 weapons here.
And you're
soon.
busting out Diablo 3 for horror.
Yeah. Shut
Okay,
up.
You just do top 10 games.
They do
Then
have
what are you
that for their promotional. They had that poster that was pretty. Not gonna lie, it was like they just had the kind of demon skull with the eyes and the 3. Solid
Yeah.
poster.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you fight
Easy.
demons. You fight. I mean, it passed the spooky requirements. I find it hilarious.
I
that
agree,
picture's number
yeah.
one.
Whatever, man.
Like I said, I respect it.
Yeah. I
Sorry, I ruined this list. Just cut the whole thing. We'll forget it.
Oh, let's see the timer here. Yeah, 3
Yeah,
hours.
3 hours,
forget
yep.
it. Whatever.
Hey,
You
I've
got
done it once.
Necromancers.
I
That's
have
it.
one
Like,
podcast I recorded that was 3 hours that never saw the light of day, unfortunately. But
My
Fantastic.
personal favorite experience about you, Michael, and Mike is that you guys say things that make me want to throw you out a window, and then the next thing you redeem it. When like something that's completely random. So I'm like, is this a little ridiculous? Yeah, but
That's-
soon you're gonna say something crazy.
that's our atmosphere of each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, that's just people in general. Like, no one's going to be everything to everyone.
But plus, I
don't know,
say
you
things sometimes
people-
just to get
reactions.
You're
Yeah,
both
Mike's an idiot.
polarizing in my heart every now and then. It's either like indifferent or wild. There's no between with you guys. So,
Do we want to run through our top 10? Go from 10 to 1 all in one?
I think I'd feel better at least for me because I felt bad that mine was all jank.
Sure. I mean, just yeah.
Yeah, Dead by Daylight, starting with 10. Sandy's Requiem, Eternal Darkness, Dead Rising, Doki Literature Club, Duck Season, Bioshock, PT, not Silent Hill 2, because we're going to get Majora's Mask, Boy Rye, not Resident Evil 7, and Outer Wilds.
Lucas, give us your rundown.
Guys, I think I should have put Luigi's Mansion 3 on my list.
No, that's
But-
what I'm saying.
But
Start over.
otherwise, I think this is a solid list. So 10 to 1, we got The Forest, Dying Light, Inscription, Bioshock, Inside, Alan Wake, And then the 4 2s: Evil Within 2, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Dead Space 2, and Silent Hill 2. Fucking sequels, get it done.
Well, dude, I'm really happy that you like all the games on your list. That's good to know.
And for me, Deadly Premonition, Eternal Darkness, Alien Isolation, Doom 3, Condemned Criminal Origin, Bloodborne, Dead Space, Alan Wake, Resident Evil 4, and Parasite E.
And for the list that got the most what the fucks from the listeners, number 10, Hugo's House of Horrors. Number 9, Prey 2017. Or is it 2018?
Yeah.
Yeah. The good one.
I think.
2017. Can confirm.
Number 8, Haunting starring Poltergeist. Number 7, Vampire Survivors. Number 6, Dead Rising 2. Number 5, The Darkness 2 and Carrion. Number 4, Left 4 Dead 2. Number 3, Eternal Darkness. Number 2, Candy Please. And number 1, Diablo 3.
What bothers me is it's a really solid list, and then you get at the very top Candy Please.
Yeah.
And then Diablo 3.
Well, I'm glad everyone enjoyed this top 10 research just because it's the last one we're doing.
Oh, this is great. I love this.
It's not, but
I am going to play Candy Please. I actually am. Looking
it's
Me too.
okay.
Here in a few weeks.
I'll play the Halloween one. Let me know when you're doing that. I'll come back and go, I hate this. Xbox Live Arcade Indie never should have happened.
Oh,
It was terrible. The Xbox Live.
At least
Indie
play
stuff.
Wagon Adventure. It's worth checking out.
It looks awful.
It's amazing. I love it.
I'll watch Markiplier play. Is that good enough? The famous Twitch streamer, Mark.
Yeah, famous influencer Markiplier. I bet they hate being called influencers.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of money they get, I highly doubt it.
Oh, no. A lot of them don't like it. They think a lot of them cringe at it. Please don't.
It's
Man,
like
if you want to pay me millions of dollars to make content, you can call me whatever you like, asshole. I don't care.
it's like calling
Call me
us
whatever you
gamers.
like.
It's just got that stigmata behind it. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, I think that's when it kind of soured in people's mouth. I think some people for a while embraced it, but then it was like, no, don't do that.
I'm all good. You can call. I mean, I'll gladly become an influencer and make millions of dollars making content. Gladly.
Star Lucas, do you guys have anything to plug?
Nope, I'm just Star. Hi.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of our listeners are from Overblood, so they probably know us all anyway.
And if you enjoyed this episode, we have other top 10s, and we have over 380 episodes, maybe 400, depending on, I didn't do math. But we're getting damn close if we're not there yet. So check out all those. If you can't find what you're looking for on Spotify or iTunes, check out Podbean. The entire catalog is on Podbean, which somebody found twice last week and downloaded our huge catalog. So yeah, thank you, sir, whoever you were. Thank you very much. And so go do that. Or actually, this time you're hearing it, not last week, but it was last week for me. And I want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena at Hell Hasphere. You can follow her on TikTok. Also want to give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker, who did the MCU movies with me, along with Mike, and then he started his own podcast.
Jeez.
A Gamer That Looks at 40. Well, you didn't start your own podcast, so I don't.
Yeah, well,
And
I'm the one person you haven't influenced yet.
so go check him out. And fuck, what else was I going to say? Oh, yeah.
Discord.
We have a Discord. Please follow us on Discord. We have a Patreon if you want to help support the show. And this poll is a Patreon poll. Little as $1. You can go vote on our Patreon. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. We are on YouTube with audio only. I think that's everything I need to say. So we will see you guys next time.
You're speedrunning this shit.
You want
Bye, everybody.
Yeah, man.
Bye-bye.